Huge shot by T.O. shattering his previous career high.
It's really quite unbelievable. And half doesn't matter who the Volunteers have put on this young man. Ball fake, spin, smooth, off the glass.
Mark took a back seat. Everyone took a back seat to allow T.O. to make sure he had the ball in his hands. And that's an unselfish team. That's a sign of a team that understands the game, but also a team that wants to win. And these guys did what they had to do to win the game.
Oh, baby, we're so back.
We are back.
We are so back. Alex Ferrario is here. Tanner Hendrickson is here. I am Brandon Kiley. Thank you so very much for tuning in today. Mizzou with a huge victory last night. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But, Alex, how you doing, man?
The boys are back in town.
It's been a minute.
It's been a long minute. I told T-Bone, I said, this feels a little weird. I haven't done this for 7 days. I got to be honest, though, as great as it was being home, and I got to do so much stuff with my girls. We'll probably talk about it on the junk drawer. But at about Monday morning, I'm like, okay, I need to get back. Maybe it was because of the USA-Canada game, and I had a lot of takes to have. But I'm not a person that could sit around and not do anything for a long period of time. 3 days, 4 days, cool, but I got to do something, and so I was very happy to be back today with you guys.
What do you think was more hectic, me going to Disney World with 1 2-year-old or Alex at home for the last week with all 3 of his girls?
I think we all know the answer to that, and it was me at home with all 3 girls. But it was, I mean, again, I got to do so much. I had a father-daughter dance with Adelaide. I got to take both girls out on a day date. We got to take a trip to Missouri Bakery. My dad and I got to spend some quality time together. Oh, yeah, I can't wait to tell you guys about this on the junk drawer today. So I got to do a lot of fun stuff, and I got to spend time with my girls and my wife, which was awesome. But I have been raring to go since probably about Monday morning. So let's get into it.
I would imagine you've been dreaming about talking about Mizzou basketball.
No,
and
USA
that's
versus
where
Canada.
we
Let's
begin
start
today, baby. You missed your opportunity. That lasted 1 day. Now we've moved on. It is Mizzou's turn. They are in the spotlight. They get a win 73-69 last night at home at Mizzou Arena. Scored 47 points in the second half to get this win against one of the best defenses in the country in Tennessee, and it all goes back to T.O. Barrett. That development has saved Mizzou's season. He had 28 points in 36 minutes last night for Mizzou. This is a guy that started out the year, first half of the year, was a bench player for them. In fact, was like a bit piece, was barely a part of the rotation, was behind early in the season. Sebastian Mack played like 8 to 12 minutes in some of their non-conference games, and now outside of Mark Mitchell is probably their second best player currently, and had just a monster night last night where he completely took over the game. Alex, my biggest takeaway from this one was T.O. Barrett, but big picture wise, that's the game that probably gets Mizzou into the NCAA tournament. Yep. I don't think you're on the bubble anymore. Barring something unforeseen, knock on wood, maybe they screw this up in their final 4 games of the regular season.
Very possible.
They're right now as likely to get the 4th seed in the SEC tournament in the double bye as they are to miss the NCAA tournament, which would have seemed crazy as recently as a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I was on the air, I think it was the A&M game that they lost.
Texas.
It was the Texas game that they lost, and I think I was very adamant about, like, I'm done. I'm done with them until they can do something that changes my mind. And finding a way to beat Vanderbilt and beat Tennessee, that's how you change your mind. I mean, my initial reaction was exactly yours, BK. They have done enough to punch that ticket to the dance. When you talk about wins over Florida, Kentucky, A&M, Vandy, and now Tennessee, it doesn't matter if you lose games that are 50-50, that's a team in the same playing level as you. If you beat down top-ranked teams like the ones you have done this season, you find a way to get into the tournament. I did not know that they got just as good of a shot to get a double bye as they do to miss the tournament. That's impressive.
So they have a bunch of tiebreakers now over the teams that are ranked similarly to them in the SEC. So because of a lot of those tiebreakers, like it is a jumbled mess. They now have that head-to-head tiebreaker over Tennessee, who currently maintains that 4th seed in the SEC. If things go their way down the stretch and they win out, they've got a really decent shot at this point to be that number 4 seed and get the double bye in the SEC tournament.
I'll tell you the part, too, just from that game last night that really stuck out to me. Like, when you're down 12-2 in the first 4 minutes, and they come out just railing you early on, and you find a way to come back. Yeah, I said it. I've got a lot of other words.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, indeed. Just gonna dump button that one. Like, but they destroyed you in the first 5 minutes, and you find a way to keep your head in that game and come back, that's at least that's not a head case team that finds ways to stay into basketball
games. And they found a different way to win last night. Like the first half, you mentioned they're down 12-2. It was ugly, sure, but they played excellent defense after that run.
Physical.
And to be able to just keep that thing close, keep it within arm's reach, that's how they were able to win. Because otherwise, normally, probably 2 months ago, Mizzou allows Tennessee to go on that run. They end up being down by 20 at the half, and the game's over. Tennessee scores 40-plus. Mizzou's struggling to get their offense going. It's too physical for them in the first half. They don't adjust well, and then you just don't ever really think about them being in the game, much less coming back and winning the game. Last night, they were able to do what was necessary to keep it close in the first half, and then boom, second half, you have this offensive explosion that they didn't have very often early on in the season. So, yeah, I was super impressed. They're finding different ways to win, and they're doing it with their two best players as Mark Mitchell and T.O. Barrett, which I don't think anybody saw that coming early on in the season, T-Bone.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I didn't see that coming from them. And then, like, last night's game, you mentioned that first, 5 minutes, Alex. It was the formula we talked about on the show yesterday, BK, with Bradford, which was, hey, you got to keep Tennessee off the glass. And what did Tennessee do? They had 4 rebounds in a possession. And I saw that and went, oh, boy, it feels like it's going to be a rough night for Missouri. And they didn't give up 18 offensive rebounds, but Tennessee didn't really capitalize on it in second chance points. And then you add in 70% of your scoring came from 2 guys in Barrett and Mitchell. That's a game you typically lose when you look at it. If I say, hey, 70% of your production comes from 2 guys, you don't have any balance of scoring, and you give up 18 offensive rebounds, you'd probably go, okay, you probably lost. I don't know by how much, but you probably lost that game.
Especially against the top 25 opponent.
Exactly. And they didn't, to their credit. And Barrett was awesome in that game last night. I mean, you mentioned it. He saved the season for the Tigers, and that is 100% accurate because they were not this team till T.O. Barrett took off. And this is when we started to see things kind of click into place. When you were here, Alex, when Bradford's like, hey, you should start to buy into this team. Things are starting to look better. I went,
Wasn't having any of it.
Wasn't having any of it. And I still think they're very limited when they get to the NCAA tournament. I don't think they're going on a run. But you know what? They're in the tournament. And I think that makes it a successful season for Dennis Gates. And it's a hell of a coaching job that he's been able to do to get this team to kind of start to fall into place at the right time. This is when you want to be peaking, is about the end of February going into the March Madness tournament.
T-Bone can't relate. His team sucks right now. At least Mizzou is playing its best basketball. SLU, unfortunately, very much is not.
See, I was setting you up for a good transition.
How long was I gone for?
I transitioned really well with a side swap of your squad. Get straight into SLU. The next conversation. They do, yeah.
Way to go, T-Bone.
Stop anybody.
I always do.
They're
They're
going to get curb stomped by the number 1 team in the country very soon.
Can't wait to watch it.
Last night, that is not the SLU that we watched for most of the season. Unfortunately, it is the SLU that we've been watching for the last couple of weeks. They're getting off to these slow starts. They're not getting the stops that they were previously. Offensively, they just look a bit disjointed at times. Last night was the first time I think I've seen them legitimately rattled all year long. You got about 6-7 minutes into that first half, they looked like they had no answers for what Dayton was throwing their way. And some of that is because Dayton just went on this crazy run of making their three-pointers. And that's got to be disheartening at best and demoralizing at worst if you're SLU, where they're hitting everything. It was almost the reverse of what happened the first time that these teams met on the court. I don't know, man. I'm not feeling great about SLU right now. And you look at what we were hoping for this team to be able to accomplish in the NCAA tournament. Their story was so different than Mizzou's. Mizzou's story this season was supposed to be get to the tournament, that's a success. I don't care what you do once you get there. Just get there. SLU's season was about, all right, set yourself up to not only get to the tournament, but then to potentially go to a Sweet 16 run when you get into the NCAA tournament. Guys, they're now looking at probably being on the 7, 8, 9 line, something in that range. If that's the case, I don't think a 6 seed's even in play for them anymore after that loss last night. I don't think that there's a realistic scenario in which this team is playing in the Sweet 16. It means you're playing a 1 or a 2 seed in the second round of the NCAA tournament, and I like this SLU team. I think they're pretty good. I think they've just run into some really tough spots lately, and they've got to find some answers sooner rather than later. I don't think they're good enough to beat any of these 1 or 2 seeds this year. This is a season in which I think those 1 and 2 seeds are really freaking good. And I don't think SLU, as we saw last night, has the physicality to beat them, unfortunately.
That was the biggest thing. I mean, look, playing in Dayton's not an easy task, but, I mean, you just got pushed around. And it's something I don't think anybody thought was a problem for SLU until you get towards the end of the season. And, I won't be hypocritical. I was the one saying I think adversity is good for a team like SLU.
How are you feeling about that now?
Not as good about that. Like, I was thinking like adversity of, you go cold from the three-point line and you got to figure your ish out before you get there. Man, if you're talking about lacking physicality, you've got to kind of go back to the drawing board and fix a lot. And I mean, when you get to the tournament, especially if you're taking on one of those power teams and you're talking about having to play in that physical atmosphere, I'd be a little concerned for SLU. I'm not going to sit here and act as if it's going to go completely haywire because I would expect them to get the job done the rest of the way with 2 home games out of their last 3, but I just don't know if you want to stump your toe going into the tournament, especially when you're talking about physicality and then having to go in there and prove yourself. What SLU needed to continue to roll the rest of the way in the season to get an ideal matchup so they could play the style that they wanted to.
You wanted to get up to a 5 or a 6 seed to avoid some of these matchups in the second round.
And you don't want to get exposed.
Can be got in the tournament. Now, if you run into Kansas, depending on if Peterson's cramping or his tummy hurts, then maybe you might be able to take them down. But outside like Kansas, the other 3s feel kind of gettable to me. Like, we're talking Nebraska potentially on that line. Nebraska's a team that I think SLU could have got in that Sweet 16 matchup. I'm with BK, though. Now that they have kind of fallen into where they're going to line up with probably a 2 or a 1 going into the Sweet 16, it's hard to picture them going on that Sweet 16 run. And if we're being honest about the way they're playing right now, teams are being more physical than them. I think the book's out on what they're doing. I mean, they are blowing up stuff on the outside when they're setting off-ball screens, making heavy contact with them to where it's not a foul, and it just disrupts the entire offense, as you saw in last night's game. The way they're playing right now, and they're running out of runway to try and get anything new or just get this issue fixed right now, I'm not even convinced they can win in the first round right now. Depending on the matchup, if they get a favorable matchup, I would take them. But if they run into someone that's going to be willing to throw the body around a little bit that's coming out of the SEC, Iowa would beat them. I would take Iowa right now. And they're willing to throw the body around, and they will slow the game down.
And I think everyone will throw the body around. If you know what their weakness is, if you know what their Achilles heel is, you play to that, and you hope that the team doesn't know how to adjust.
I wonder if we get an 8-9 Mizzou versus SLU matchup. I mean, that's got to be in play at this point.
I'd rather have a 6-7.
They can't be in the first round.
Oh, impossible.
Damn. I just really wanted to say 6-7.
They could be seeded 6 or 7.
Look,
that seems every bit as that actually is more unlikely.
Look, it was
the 6 or the 7 playing in the first round, which is impossible.
If I can come back and say railed and then 6-7 and have another laugh, it's the trifecta.
Coming up in about 15 minutes or so, we're going to talk a little bit about the Cardinals, how they lined up last night. I think this one change could unlock the Cardinals roster crunch. We'll get into that coming up here in just a little bit. Do want to pass along a couple of pieces of news when it comes to the Blues. We'll do that and talk about Jordan Kyrou's future next here on 101 ESPN. Blues announced earlier today that Robert Thomas is going to take a temporary leave of absence from the team due to a personal matter. He's expected to return on Friday. The Blues have no further comment at this time, but hopefully everything's okay on that front. It sounds like nothing that will keep him away from the team for these games that are coming up. But do want to make sure that we mentioned Robert Thomas away from the team. That's why he's not at morning skate today. Did find it interesting, though, Alex, and I haven't seen any further updates, but Lou Korak tweeted out moments ago he's not seeing Braden Shin at practice today. Bennington and Parayko, no surprise. They have not yet made it back from their Team Canada duties, but Braden Shin had been skating with the team previously. And according to Lou Korak, not on the ice today. What do you make of this?
I think this is probably some setback that happened. I don't think this has anything related trade-wise. I think if there was something trade-wise with this, we would have been hearing rumors about a potential trade from one of these national insiders saying, hey, things are heating up with Shen, and then him not being on skate or on the ice for skate today. My guess is some type of setback from practice yesterday, or it's maintenance off of the ice for Braden Shen. So I'm not going to start the conspiracy theories yet on trades of Braden Shen.
All right. We'll wait to do that for at least
in about an hour. We'll find out that he was traded, and I was wrong.
So you did a new edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast today. People can find that over on the YouTube page here in the next few hours, I would assume. Yeah. YouTube.com/101ESPN-STL. And I always ask you whenever you're done, hey, anything of interest that you think we should talk about on the show? Normally there's at least a couple things. Today you said, yeah, JR actually said something really interesting. Share with the audience. What did he say,
So
Alex?
JR is going to have a piece out coming out in the next couple of days, just kind of taking a landscape view of the team and where the players are at in terms of, could there be a trade on the horizon? Is there interest in a trade? And what JR talked about on the podcast is he believes, or he has heard, that there is some frustration on the side of Jordan Kyrou's in terms of his usage on the ice. I'm not spreading any news that we haven't talked about. We talked about this on the podcast, but, if there's concern, we've seen Jeff Merrick talk about it on the podcast. We've seen David Pagnotta talk about it and on his shows about how it seems like there's a little bit of burned love between two sides right now, and wonders if a change of scenery is going to benefit. And at least from JR's perspective, he believes, or he has heard, that there is some frustration on the side of Jordan Kyrou's camp. Not saying Kyrou's frustrated, but the camp of Jordan Kyrou in terms of the usage on the ice. And what I mean by that is JR referenced, in terms of expected goals created, the assists he's putting up, he's top 3 on the team. He's actually top 2, I think, on the team in terms of expected goals created when he's on the ice. But he's 6th in on ice amongst forwards on the team. So it would make sense if there's frustration there in terms of, hey, you're not even using our guy. I think we've known by now that there's probably frustration with Jordan Kyrou from the Blues perspective. So to me, it just throws a little gasoline on the fire that we've been talking about. I do really wonder if a move makes sense and happens at this year's deadline instead of waiting until the offseason.
So Jordan Kyrou is playing an average of 16 minutes and 13 seconds per night this year. That would be the least amount of ice time that he's had in any individual season since his first full season in 2020. Over the last 4 years, he was at 17.5, 18.5, 18, and 16.5 in terms of his average time on ice. So this is the lowest that he's been really since he's become a full-time regular for the St. Louis Blues. I could understand why, if you're Jordan Kyrou, that would be frustrating. I would also say this. I think it's been able to maximize what he does for you offensively, because I think he's getting better matchups this season. Yes, he's playing less, but the matchups that he's getting are better. So when he is on the ice, even though it's less often, he is getting better opportunities. So I would assume that his numbers would go up because he's going up against the lower portion of the opposing team's lineup as well. I don't think that's to denigrate what he's accomplished, but I do think that's part of those numbers that you referenced there, Alex. I think it's just a reminder, both of these sides would seemingly like a fresh start.
Yeah, everybody needs a break.
And I don't know what that means in terms of...
break it.
I don't know what that means in terms of the timeline.
Yeah.
I still am skeptical that they're able to get this thing done at the trade deadline. I think this is an offseason move. I think once you get to the offseason, you'll have more teams that have more flexibility, more cap space available to them, and they're going to be able to do more with their roster. But we mentioned this the other day. There was a piece over in The Athletic on hypothetical trades that would make sense for both teams. One of the trades was the Dallas Stars send Jason Robertson to the Blues. The Blues send, I think it was Jordan Kyrou and Justin Falk to the Dallas Stars. That's one that I look at, I'm like, okay, that's exactly the kind of move that I would try to make if I'm the Blues.
I've pushed back on Jason Robertson when we've talked about it. I would do that deal in a heartbeat. I saw that piece that Craig Button was breaking that down for JR. Yes, as long as there's a contract extension with Jason Robertson of, let's say, 8 by 12, as long as he's locked up, I'll do that trade in a heartbeat because you're getting two guys that probably both need a change of scenery, although Jason Robertson's having all of the success with Dallas right now. He's going to get paid. It's not going to make sense there. Dallas, it keeps them competitive. That's a creative move that I would do if I'm the Blues. I just don't know if Dallas has any interest in it.
They're the kind of team that I might.
They need defensive help just as much as they need wing help.
And this allows them to keep some of that offensive production. Like, Kyrou's a good player. He's not Jason Robertson maybe, but he's a good player nonetheless.
80, 70% of the production.
Exactly. And he's going to come at 80, 70% of the cost as well, which is something they need. I don't know that they can re-sign Jason Robertson long-term. I don't know that they're going to be able to match the number that Robertson is likely to command on the open market. So if you're them, this is your way to potentially get that defenseman that helps you and also give you that long-term stability on the wing. So I do think it actually makes some sense from both sides, but it's the question of, if you're Dallas, are you willing to do that now? Mm-hmm. Is that the kind of move that you can realistically make in season? They were aggressive last year at the deadline, and it worked pretty darn well for them when it came to the Mikko Rantanen move. Would they be willing to do that back-to-back seasons? I don't know, man. But I think that's the kind of return that it would take for me if I'm in Doug Armstrong's shoes to make this move with Jordan Kyrou. I'm not doing this just for flexibility.
No.
I'm doing this to get a pretty damn good player in return if I'm going to move Kyrou.
And this is why, the teams that we've brought up in the past, like Seattle's one I still wonder about with Shane Wright, and I don't know if that makes sense for people that makes your team better with Shane Wright. I've brought up Buffalo. I've brought up Washington. The other one that I really wonder about, if it gets done at the deadline or in the offseason, I wonder about New Jersey. I don't know if you guys saw, it was James Murphy that put the report out there that basically said, look, New Jersey's trying to make a trade to shake things up with their core. That would be another team that I'd be wondering of, hey, do they want to try and pull off some type of hockey trade for hockey trade? I don't know. I'm with you. I think it makes more sense to do it in the offseason when there's more flexibility, when teams lose in the first round, realize they need more offense and more speed, then they come calling to the Blues to make a deal work. But just there's something inside me that says I could see it happening at the trade deadline because of the amount of frustration probably built up on both sides, and teams get desperate for a playoff push, and Kyrou can help a team win now rather than win later.
Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. In 15 minutes, we'll get into questions and answers. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. You can check us out and be involved in the YouTube chat at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Coming up next, Cardinals played yesterday. The only real takeaway that I had from the game was who was standing on first base. We'll tell you about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night, the Missouri Tigers took down number 22 Tennessee 73-69. Meanwhile, the SLU Billikens lost on the road at the Dayton Flyers 77-62. And the St. Louis Blues will be back in action tomorrow night as they return from the Olympic break. They'll be hosting the Seattle Kraken. We'll have pregame coverage tomorrow night starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, Cardinals played yesterday. I don't want to get too much into any of it. I'm sure you've seen probably some of the breakdowns on Twitter.
Yeah, we need to talk about Jordan Walker, who still can't hit the ball.
Yeah, over 2, a couple of ground outs.
We're 6 games into spring training. This guy can't be in right field.
Yeah.
Blame at third base.
Yeah.
Tink Hens apparently can't throw a baseball anymore.
What are you topping out at about 93, 94? I saw somebody
Mason
complaining
Molina,
about.
a lot of people are very excited about him. He allowed 3 runs.
By the way,
Didn't he walk like 3 guys,
Yeah,
too?
but he's throwing hard.
No, good.
shout out to fellow pre- and post-game host Matt Pauley on KMOX side. I see he's already dealing with upset Cardinals fans on social media.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, he's been quote tweeting people saying,
The
"Can we
game
please?"
wasn't even on television.
he said, "Can we please put down the pitchforks and torches?" Been 6 games into the season, and I'm like, I feel you, brother.
Been there.
I got 25 more of them.
Again, I really don't care about any of that stuff. What I do care about, though, is Joel Pozo played first yesterday.
All right, 6 games in. Biggest takeaway is
Joel Pozo is probably your backup first baseman.
and welcome to a rebuild.
No, but I
Or
do
a build.
think this is meaningful because it opens up your roster. You know, if he's going to be able to play first base, it gives him some more versatility, and it allows you to carry him as that quote-unquote third catcher on the roster. He can play first, he can DH. Maybe once a week you get him behind the plate if you really wanted to. If you don't, that's fine too. I don't really care either way on that. But Pozo was a guy that hit pretty well last year, man. And if you're going to get, one day off a week for Alec Burleson just to go to DH, just have him have a day off of his feet, I'm cool with that. And you give Joel Pozo that start at first, I think he makes a lot of sense there. So it really is that simple, Alex. My biggest takeaway yesterday is they're starting to figure out what they want this roster to look like. Pozo at first opens things up. Saggese and Fermin in the outfield allowed them to go out and make the move to sign Ramon Urias. This roster's pretty much set, in my opinion, going into opening day.
It's versatility. I mean, this goes all the way back to when they released Joel Pozo and then they re-signed Joel Pozo. And I'm like, look, you're not doing that unless you believe he's going to be on your roster. I always thought it was just going to be he's going to be a bench bat with the third catcher in line, but now you found another position for him. I mean, a lot of these guys are able to play 5 or 6 different positions right now, and that's what you're going to do when you're a team like the Cardinals and you're trying to sort out who plays where and who's going to be the core. I know Ali talked about that with TMA last week or a couple of weeks ago of, trying to figure out where guys fit in as they're establishing the core. This is what you do. You move guys around. Saggese in left, and then he's at second, and he's at short. Basically, you're at the position as a team in baseball to where bring 3 or 4 gloves to the baseball field because who knows what position you're going to be playing.
At least the guys that, are the utility players.
And trying to make a major league club.
Exactly. I know Alec Burleson's going to be playing first. That's his position this year. I know J.J. Weatherholt is almost exclusively going to be playing at second unless something happens with Mason Wynn, in which case he'll probably get the opportunity at short, and that's why he's starting at shortstop today. Jordan Walker, you're in right field. Victor Scott, you're in center. Like, there are a lot of guys on this team. I know where they're going to be at positionally, but yeah, if you're Joel Pozo and you're just trying to make this club, you're going to have to move around a little bit. If you're Ramon Urias, your entire career has been spent moving around the infield. If you're Jose Fermin or Thomas Saggese, hey guys, Fermin, you have no options left. You either make this club with versatility or you're back on the free agent market. Thomas Saggese, you either make this club by getting in where you fit in or you're going down to AAA and you're riding the bus again this year. For those guys, I think you have to do stuff like this. And I want to stick on that line of thinking. Because Stalter said something yesterday on the fast lane that I heard, and I kind of cringed a little bit. Not because it's like wrong or anything.
Because you hate Stoltz.
Correct. That's why. 100%.
I understand
He was
that.
in my wedding, but I do hate him.
Yeah,
yes.
I understand it.
I want to play this and get your thoughts on it on the other side, Alex.
You could put Thomas Saggese in left field. He's somebody that does have limited time, but he does have some time in the outfield. But I think it's more likely than not that it's Fermin that's starting in left field because he's out of options, whereas Thomas Saggese, I believe, has 2 options left. So maybe they send Saggese down to the minors when camp opens up, and he gets some time in the outfield, maybe gets more comfortable, and you see how Fermin does. Victor Scott and Jordan Walker are the only ones in the outfield that are set in stone. I think when it comes to the Urias signing, it means that Fermin transfers out to the outfield exclusively, at least at the start of the year, until Nootbaar is healthy.
So he's got Fermin in left and Saggese in AAA to start out the season.
What does the rest of that bench look like then?
That's kind of my thing.
I mean, even if for me, I think he's right in the sense that Victor Scott and Jordan Walker are the only 2 that are cemented into an outfield position. I don't know if they know if it's Fermin or Saggese. I don't think Saggese's in the minor leagues. I think Saggese is starting in left field because he's got at least more upside than what Jose Fermin has. And if you're the Cardinals right now, you want to find out what upside looks like. And if he's got options, I can send him down 3 weeks into the season if it still looks bad.
So that's where I would push back a little bit on what Stelter said there. I think previously maybe that is the way they would operate because it's the path of least resistance. Yes. This year, and given where they're at as an organization, I don't think that really makes a whole lot of sense. And you said the optimal thing. For who? You're sending him down to AAA, and who are you keeping at the big league club?
To keep Brian Torres and Nathan Church on the roster? I think I'd rather just put Saggese out there.
Exactly. With Nootbaar on the IL, most likely to start out the season, it opens up an extra roster spot. So I think your bench on opening day will be one of Saggese or Fermin, whoever you decide not to start in left field, Pozo, Urias, and Nathan Church.
Yeah.
I think that's probably your opening day bench as you get into the regular season.
And if you think Saggese isn't on the major league roster, then I would love for you to present me another player that's pushing him to AAA. Because beyond the names you just mentioned, Prieto, Velazquez, Torres, I mean, there's no way Baez is there. Like, that's it.
And Torres has options still.
And I don't think they're going to put Torres in that position.
Prieto has options still.
Which, what are we doing if we're putting Prieto over Saggese, unless they dominate
who's
spring?
The guy that needs to be on the major league roster that you're sending Saggese down in favor of?
The answer is Saggese needs to be on the major league roster.
There's not one, to your question, BK. There's just not one of those guys. Saggese, even if he doesn't perform well in spring training, you still look at the upside and go, yeah, we still have to have that guy on the roster. Even if he has options, because he was a top 100 prospect at one point. He was like the key prize in the return for Jordan Montgomery. You want to learn what that guy is. The year of the rebuild means you're giving guys like Walker 600 plate appearances this season. I'm not saying Saggese's locked in for 600 plate appearances. He's going to get about 450, though, would be my plan. And if he struggles or not, you know what? You keep throwing him out there for most days, especially while Nootbaar's on IL, just so you can continue to learn what he is as a player. And you know what? If you find out this year he can't hit, then maybe you can move on from him in the offseason if you so choose. Fermin's not one of those guys that you need answers on. Fermin, as we've seen how baseball's valued him across the league, is he's like a 4A player, or maybe he settles in as a bench guy. And I think what you're looking at is he's probably going to be the guy that is on the pine, be the backup infielder in case of emergencies for them. I think he gets the job over Prieto, and then it just comes down to that final bench spot that they discussed, and it's going to come down to Church, Velazquez, Torres. That'll be the battle that is going to be.
Oh, and it's a big one, boys.
Yeah.
you gotta pay attention when those guys take the
crack
field.
one of my top 25 most important Cardinals.
I'm not even. Oh, really? That's
wow. Probably 10.
I think even that battle that I just mentioned is more on like Saggese than it is on what those three guys do. If Saggese can play center field, which it sounds like they're at least considering experimenting with in spring training. All right, sorry, Nathan Church, you're probably not here. Velasquez, the big right-handed bat, probably is the one that's here as a quote-unquote backup outfielder, fourth outfielder. If he can't play center field, then you can lock in Nathan Church to be there because he's the only guy that in the organization still that can play center field behind Scott.
Yeah, and like because Victor Scott is a lefty, you've already got the left-handed outfielder on the roster, so you don't necessarily need that lefty bat. with a guy like Nathan Church. Also, who cares?
Whoa.
It's 2026.
Yeah. No, what
Top 20 Cardinals and Alex's 20 ranking.
Look, 15 to 20 isn't going to matter, basically. I'll give you the insight right now.
Nathan Church is a 26-year-old rookie in Major League Baseball.
It's okay.
I don't
Those guys always
think-
turn into Aaron Judge.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot of
33
upside there.
It's okay at free agency.
He might end up being a useful fourth outfielder, but for right now, I'm not overly concerned about it. All right, coming up in about 15 minutes or so, this season isn't finishing the way that we had hoped for SLU. How is that going to impact Josh Schertz's future decision on whether or not he stays at a place like SLU? We'll get into that coming up in 15 minutes. Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, also joins us in the 12 o'clock hour, but questions and answers coming up next here on 101 ESPN. News to pass along. This comes from Jeff Jones of the Belleville News-Democrat, one of only a couple of guys that are down there in spring training covering the team day-to-day for the Cardinals this year. Marmol said this morning that Tink Hence will remain on a reliever schedule through the end of the spring. He'll go to 1 or 2 inning bursts multiple times a week. Then, to get used to the feel of that routine, he adds the door is not closed on Tink as a starter, but it certainly seems pointed in that direction, Alex. Sucks. Saw yesterday the velo wasn't where you'd want, and people that understand more about the pitch shape and the extension numbers and all that stuff seem to believe, like, hey, this is not heading in a good direction for Tink Hence. He does not look like he's moving the same way that he did prior to some of these injuries that have started to add up. If this is their best way to extract some level of value out of Tink Hence at the major league level, the clock is running now with him officially on the 40-man as of this year. I'm fine with it. Yeah. It sucks. It's disappointing, but if this is the best way for them to get something out of him at the major league level, so be it.
Yeah, look, he's 22 years old. It's kind of, you got to figure out what he is right now. And I mean, I think the last couple of seasons have given you the example of he's just not a starter. They've tried it. 2023, he started 23 games and got injured. 2024, he started 20 games and got injured. Like, at some point, you have to look at it and say, he can't be a starter because we can't keep him healthy. Can we best utilize his assets as a reliever? And I think it's a smart move by the Cardinals. Again, he's 22. He could turn out to be a hell of a reliever and then figure things out as you move along. But I'm glad they're at least picking a side and they're going with it rather than the old option to where, well, he could still be a starter. He'll be a reliever, but then we'll make him a starter and we'll go back and forth until he breaks.
And it's a little easier to do it this year with the depth that you now have in the minor leagues.
Absolutely.
You know, the problem that they would have had in years past, to what you were just pointing out there too, Alex, is if you were to do this with Hens, who was other guys in the minors that were coming up that were close to starters, they didn't have answers. Yeah. So you almost had to develop him as a starter. So I'm a little surprised they're going to move him into the reliever role. I thought they'd give it another year as a starter, but BK's right. You've got to start to extract some value from him here at some point, especially now that he's been on the 40-man for 2 years now, I believe.
From the 801, if the Blues end up trading Kyrou and he excels with his new team, gives them something like 40 or more goals and a point per game player, do you think this would go down as one of the bigger blunders in Blues management history?
Are they speaking of just the Kyrou trade or the position that the team is in?
Say Kyrou trade.
Because the Kyrou trade, I don't think it's a blunder at all. I mean,
even if he goes on to have 80-plus points, 40-plus goals elsewhere?
I don't think he was ever going to do it here. I think you saw the best of Jordan Kyrou over these last 3 years, and he got you close to it, but he just never could get to that 40-goal, 80-plus point number. And that's why I kind of asked the question, because I don't know if the blunder is the Kyrou move more so than you banked on the wrong pieces being the focal point of your resurgence into winning. Like, maybe Thomas, if he goes on to score all of the goals and 40-plus goal scorer, 90-plus points, maybe Robert Thomas was the problem, and he's not the number one center that you thought could bring the best out of him. But there's just certain guys that I look at, if they get moved and they go on to have success, I look at it and I say, hey, good for him, because he wasn't going to do that here, and I'm glad that he's able to go accomplish it. Vince Dunn is another example. I don't think Vince Dunn was ever going to be what Vince Dunn is right now. Jake Wallman. They need to go somewhere and have that success.
Who right now is the guy that failed here and went on to have success elsewhere? The most success elsewhere.
Failed here? Ooh, that's a good question.
Or at least disappointed, because I would say Kyrou hasn't failed, but
Jake
he's disappointed
Wallman or
relative to expectations.
Mikola's a good one because he was in the top
I mean,
four.
they tried it with Parayko nonstop, and it just never panned out. And I think it was just because they were trying to get Mikola to do as a top pair defenseman what Mikola is doing as a second pair defenseman, if that makes sense. Like, top pair guys need to be able to drive offense. Second pair guys can kind of shore up the defensive side. Forward wise, man, I don't know if I can think of one that went on to have success that failed here.
That's kind of what I'm thinking as well.
Yeah. I mean, Logan Brown, obviously, but, you know.
I would say the one that people would probably bring up is Tage Thompson. It was disappointing with what he did here
long enough.
And you'd make that trade 100 times over if it results in a Stanley Cup final for you. So that's one of the other reasons I bring this up. I think it depends on what you get for Kyrou.
Yeah.
If Kyrou goes on elsewhere and puts up a point per game, 40-plus goals, it'll be frustrating that he didn't do that here. But to go back to the trade that we mentioned earlier, if you do it and you trade him in a package deal for Jason Robertson, and Robertson is putting up 40-plus goals for you, I'll just look at it and be like, well, didn't work here, but we at least got what ultimately you were hoping out of Jordan Kyrou.
People bring up TJ Oshie. I don't think Oshie ever failed here. I think they just needed to make a change from that youth.
Kind of the same as Kyrou, where like you tried it and you knew you couldn't get over the hump.
And he was
with
great
it, so
here.
you moved on from it.
Yeah, you just needed him. He didn't fit into the Hitchcock system, and they needed to go get somebody who did to get them over the hump.
Can we be real? Oshie had one season of more than 25 goals, or more than 30 goals in his career. Yeah. Oshie was a really good player,
Oshie was a hell of a player, but
this would be a different level. If Kyrou goes on to be a 40-plus goal, 90-plus point producer, Oshie never had more than 60 points in his career.
Somebody also brought
It
up
was different back then.
Somebody also brought up Chucky Sideburns.
It's like 40 goals now. Like, relax over there. Relax, Brandon.
I would
Don't
not
you try
say
and
that.
drag down TJ Sochi.
He was a good player, a really good player, and was a lot of fun to watch, and will always have one of the more memorable careers of anybody in the 2010s because of that moment. But come on.
I think the big thing with Oshie too was they chose the wrong guy to move on from. They opted to move on from Oshie, and maybe it was because there was no trade interest, but I would have kept Oshie instead of Berglund. Berglund was the one that they said he's a centerman. We don't want to lose this. Thank God they kept him indeed, because I don't think Berglund's the reason they got O'Reilly. I think Tage Thompson was, but at least they got him, right?
Say it worked out all right for the Blues, all things considered.
Flags fly forever.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers from the 314. Do you think it would be worth letting Kyrou finish out the season with a healthy Holloway to see if he can rekindle what they were on the same line last year?
That's not the reason I'm going to keep him. The reason I keep him is I hope I can find another trade partner. I don't care if this guy goes on to score 40 points in the final 25 games. You need to make a change. And unfortunately, it's either Kyrou or Thomas, because you're not going to be able to move on from Pavel Buchnevich. You're going to make all the other necessary changes of Falk and Shen and Sundqvist and maybe Bennington, I don't know, but you've got to make a change, and I think Kyrou's probably the one that you're able to pull off.
How many of these do you think they actually do
at the deadline? Shen, Falk, and then I'm like 60-40 on Kyrou.
I'm thinking Shen, Falk, and like maybe one of those like third or fourth line pieces, like
Sundqvist.
Joseph, Suter,
I think
Sundqvist, another one, like one of those guys maybe. So I'd say 3.
I was talking about like the controllable guys, like Kyrou, Thomas, but I agree with you.
I think Kyrou. I'm like 60-40 on Kyrou right now. I think a team is going to get desperate enough. Pierre LeBrun just had a report saying that there's a lot of teams that want to see how the first couple of games play back before they decide on what they do. And like Washington is the one that Jeff Merrick brought up with us. And like, if you look at the standings in the Eastern Conference, guys, if Florida's going to back out, the Eastern Conference is wide open. And if I'm the Washington Capitals, who sit 4 points out of a playoff spot, I need to get healthy, and I need to go out there and get more offense. And like, why wouldn't Washington say, let's push our chips in? Because Florida's not not the juggernaut in. We can compete with all of these other teams.
Agreed. By the way, Luke Korak with an update on Braden Shen. He got sick yesterday, so he was told to stay home. And Oscar Sundqvist didn't skate today because he's a new dad.
Hey!
So congratulations
Little Sonny.
to the Sonny family.
Little Sonny. I'm excited to get more info on that, because I know Joe Vitale's going to get that investigative reporting done.
We will have Joey Vitale on the show with us tomorrow to discuss everything as it pertains to the Blues and what he's expecting from them in the second half. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. From Dale in Grubville, Alex, how much did you miss the Tone Ranger hating on fan favorite Blues players?
I haven't gotten Tone yet. I feel like once I first hear it, I'll want to go back. He did correct my grammar about 2 minutes into me being in the office.
That's not accurate. I did not do that.
That did happen.
He did. He corrected me.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. You corrected yourself.
No, I don't think so.
No,
I
you
didn't
corrected.
say a word to you.
I said,
You said, wouldn't that be 2 words?
Yeah.
You went,
I said it was 3 words. You said it was 2 words.
That.
No, you did.
I'm pretty sure you said
How
that.
are we already doing this?
I did not say
You
that.
said, all right, boys, and I said, the best 3 words I could hear coming back. And you said, I think those are 2 words.
I did not.
Yeah,
You.
that
And then I said it could be 3.
No.
All right, boys.
Do you not know what your own voice sounds like?
I didn't say that.
Yes,
That's
you
not
did.
true.
Go to
in
the
there.
tapes.
I would love to. That didn't happen.
This is a democracy, and T-Bone and I take 2
I
of
remember
3.
it being
Time out.
BK
No, it's a
saying it.
dictatorship.
No,
I'm the
it's
leader
not.
of this
Welcome
rudderless
back.
ship.
Welcome
and
back.
You, sir, are lying.
Welcome
You're
back.
lying to the listeners
Welcome
right
back.
now.
I am not lying. I am giving you facts. Stop railing me.
Oh.
Okay. In 15 minutes.
This season isn't about finishing.
What?
Isn't that what's next on the rundown?
Oh, that was
We hope for SLU.
Yeah,
Oh.
that was Yeah, you can't use that sentence after my sentence, man.
We kept that PG-13.
This is no, that was R.
All right,
about
NFL
to get
quick hitters
X.
in about 15 minutes. Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joins us in the 12 o'clock hour as well. But coming up next, this season isn't finishing the way that SLU had hoped. What
all
does it
about
mean
finishing.
for Josh Schertz? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario back with you to talk about my friends out at Ted Drew's. That was one of the many destinations I got to do with the girls while I was off, was go out to Ted Drew's and get some frozen custard. I did it actually twice on a day date with Adelaide and Emma, and we said, what do we want to do? They said, well, let's go get ice cream. I said, better, we're going to get frozen custard, and that's Ted Drew's. It's officially open. It means spring in my eyes, even though some days it feels like it's still winter out there. It's open off of Chippewa for its 97th season, and Ted Drew's is based off of quality, off of a family-run business, fourth generation service, and a love for St. Louis. Plus, they got incredible flavors out there. You can mix and match. My daughters are big on Oreos and marshmallows right now. It's a really good flavor that my 5-year-old came up with, which was wonderful. So go on out there, check out the flavors, and just check out the traditions you get to build, sitting in the parking lot of Ted Drew's, enjoying that frozen custard, and enjoying time with family and friends. They're also hiring. You could check out an opportunity to work at Ted Drew's at their website, teddrews.com, for more information. Also, check out their gift shop and historical museum right across the parking lot. You can check out all of the Ted Drew's memorabilia of those 97 years and buy some Ted Drew's gift cards for that special someone. So get on out there and start the 97 season off right with Ted Drew's famous frozen custard, real tradition. Ted Drew's, it's St. Louis.
From the Arnold Mule, people are so hard on SLU. They're 25-3. Only 7 teams in the nation have 3 or fewer losses. Yeah, they have 2 bad losses, but expecting them to go 29-1 is so unfair. That's right. It is unfair, and that's college basketball in 2026.
Welcome to the A10.
Yep.
If you play in the A10, you have very little margin for error. In fact, they had more than most teams because of how great they have been in a lot of their predictive metrics. So you go look on KenPom and stuff like that, and man, they rate well in just about everything. They're a very good offense. They're a very good defense. They do a little bit of everything. But those metrics are tamped down in some of the other stuff because they don't have very many great wins on the season. I mean, their best wins this year, if you're just going by KenPom's metrics, VCU is ranked 44th in the country. Santa Clara is ranked 34th in the country. I believe those are their only 2 wins this season against a team that is ranked in the top 60. Oof. You now have losses against teams that are ranked 75th, 125th, and 79th in the country in KenPom rankings. And I say all of this to say this season is not ending the way that we all expected it to. I thought this team, Alex, was the first SLU team in more than a decade that had a real shot to make it to the Sweet 16. Like a real legitimate shot to do so. They are talented. They are deep. They have a great coach who wins not only with X's and O's, but I think he's instilled quite a good culture with that group as well. And yet, because of the way that they are finishing the season, not collapsing, but, a disappointing finish nonetheless, they're probably going to end up as a 7 seed or lower, somewhere in that 7 to 10 range, which means they are very likely to have to play a 1 or a 2 seed in the second round of the NCAA tournament. And if that happens, I no longer have any faith or belief that they're going to be able to make it to the Sweet 16.
No, I don't either. And unfortunately for SLU, that was the expectation when you rattled off, what was it, 18 wins in a row, 17 wins in a row? The expectation wasn't what it was at the beginning of the season of, hey, well, you get in and it'll be an exciting season. When you go on that type of run, the expectations are, hey, let's see how deep you can make this one. And look, for where they've been exposed in terms of that physicality in these last couple of basketball games, if we're talking about them seeing a number 1 or a number 2 seed in the second round, I don't know if they can play with that. Like, I don't know. We talked so much about how deep their bench was in terms of the amount of guys that can come off and actually impact a game. That's all fine and dandy, but if your main guys aren't getting the job done and physicality is your weakest link, that might be where the dance ends for them because of that next level of talent that they go up against that's not A-10 competition.
Yeah, and it's not just, we got those expectations because they went on a good run. Miami, Ohio is a team that hasn't even lost a game yet this year, but no one's talking about them as like a Sweet 16 darling. They're like on the 11 line right now because they haven't played anybody. But the reason that we got excited and we're talking about, hey, there should be some expectations on this team when they get to the tournament to at least win a game, if not go on that fun run to the Sweet 16, was the predictive metrics that BK had mentioned. Mm-hmm. And if you're just looking at kind of your traditional metrics, right? Like field goal percentage, they're top 10. 3-point percentage, they're second in the country on that mark. So this is a very good basketball team and what they've been doing from the floor. And that's why it's as shocking as it has been. I mean, BK said it in the open today, and I totally agree with you watching them last night. At times lately, they look almost dysfunctional on the offensive end of the floor. And that's what happened last night against Dayton. And I don't know if that's the physicality that really took them out of that, if for some reason they just weren't ready to play when that game tipped off last night. But it has felt that way to start a lot of these basketball games lately where they're getting off to these slow starts. And if they fall to that, well, now it feels like they're going to fall to that 7, 8, 9 line. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think, one, right now they're not trending in a direction where they could win in the first round. It'll be a tougher matchup than I originally thought. But two, you run into these 1 or 2 seeds. These are buzzsaws that are going to probably get to the Elite 8 before they run into each other, and then it'll be a collision course. You're not going to match up well against a team like Michigan, against Arizona, even some of these 2 seeds like Illinois or Iowa State. Those are matchup nightmares for SLU. When we talked about them going to a Sweet 16 run, we were thinking, okay, they might be able to pick off one of those 3s, maybe even a 4 if they could have gotten as high up to as a 5 seed as we were thinking a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and that's what the hope was. Now that's gone. And this gets us into the future conversation about SLU, Josh Schertz, what his plans are. ESPN.com had a really extensive breakdown earlier today on what the coaching carousel could look like this offseason. And you scroll all the way down to the bottom of this piece, and they talk about the coaches that could potentially make a jump up this offseason. The first name listed, no surprise, is Josh Schertz. And they wrote the following. After being one of the hottest names on the coaching carousel only 2 years ago at Indiana State, Schertz is once again the crown jewel of this year's coaching cycle. He has SLU at 25-2 entering the week. 25-3 now. Ranked in the side of the top 25 nationally and on track for a single-digit seed on Selection Sunday. The only thing that's missing from his resume is that NCAA tournament appearance, which is something that will change this season. It's worth noting, Schertz is not eager to jump at just any high major job. He can afford to be selective or even wait until next year. So this is why I think the finish is so interesting and potentially important for SLU. If you're in Josh Schertz's shoes and you, in his own words, went 6 for 6 in the transfer portal this past offseason, and as he said on TMA earlier this season, you could never expect that to happen again. Going 6 for 6 is nearly impossible in the portal. They just did. You also have Robbie, who came with you from Indiana State and is like the glue guy that makes everything work with their offense. And if you're now watching at SLU with all of that in place and with the fan base really getting behind you and all of this stuff, and you're still going to end up as a member of the A-10, losing maybe 3 games this year, let's call it, as a 8 seed and a likely first or a second round exit, do you then look at your situation and say, I might have maxed this out. I might have just seen as good as it gets at SLU. I hope that's not the case. For our sake, we're getting content out of this. It's awesome. I like watching quality basketball. It's better for us day to day if Josh Schertz, A, stays at SLU, and B, not only takes this thing and runs with it, but they become the next, like, I don't know, Gonzaga or whatever. That'd be amazing if they could do that.
I'd love it.
Does he think that's possible? That is what I don't know. And so then I go over to some of the schools that, according to ESPN.com, their jobs either could or will open up this offseason. That list includes Boston College, which is a little closer to home for him, Cincinnati, which is a really good job, LSU, which I don't know about that one, Memphis, which is closer to where he's coached for most of the last 15 to 20 years. He's coached primarily in the state of Tennessee, and that, in my opinion, is a very, very good job and an underrated one at that. You got Pittsburgh, which could open up, Providence, which is a very good job and a mid-major program, and Syracuse, which, historically speaking, has also been a very good job. Man, if a few of those jobs open up and they come calling for Josh Schertz, I didn't mention K-State, which is already open as well. I think it'd be pretty hard for him to turn down each and every one of those jobs. Am I wrong?
No, and especially for the reasons that you just said, to where if you stumble the rest of the way after going 6 for 6 in the portal, which does not happen, how much of this do you want to chance it and say, well, I can do this again next year and wait for that next big job to come? Because you could fail even more next year. The portal could not be successful. You could lose the centerpiece, not be able to attract the best pieces, and go back to being a couple games above 500 roster. Like, that's the worry if you're Josh Schertz. And you look at it and say, do I need to pounce now? To where these schools that have a lot more ability to go out there and recruit the top talent and bring those guys in to cover, so I don't need to go 6 for 6 in the portal. If I don't take it now, I may never get that shot again. But on the flip side of that, you take that chance and it doesn't work out for you right away, and next thing you know, you're out of it and you're not viewed as the same light as you were before.
It would be a huge gamble to stay and bet on yourself, and that's what it would be if you're Josh Schertz. And it's not to say that SLU wouldn't give him the resources that are necessary to build an A-10 winner. I think they can do that, but are you willing to try and wait that out? Because it is a lot harder to consistently win at this conference, and not because of the talent that is in the conference, but the talent that you're able to bring into your university to try and do it. And that's where it would be a huge bet on yourself. You know, we have seen coaches do this in the past. You know, we've talked about it. Shaka Smart did this at VCU, and he gambled on himself, waited a little bit, and then went to, I believe it was Texas was his first job, if I remember correctly. And then the same thing happened with Bradley Stevens when he was at Butler. Do you believe you can consistently build a winner at SLU for another year or two and wait for the perfect job? Or do you just need to cash your chips in now? My bet would be you should probably cash in your chips now, because one of these jobs that you just ran through, whether it's a Boston College or it's Memphis or it's Kansas State, which is already open, those jobs will give you better resources to try and have some success there. And if you do good there, maybe then you can jump again.
As much as we say, too, that it's a gamble, like, the positive, if you're Josh Schertz, is you see how much SLU appreciates you, and they're going to provide you the funds. You're going to get paid well to stay there.
But that's going to be the case anywhere, man. Like,
yes,
I agree.
But you go to a big school and you don't work out quickly, you're gone.
Same thing's true at SLU, though.
I don't know. I feel like you get more of a leash at SLU for how much they appreciate what, like you saw what it looks like at the top.
I think so too, especially as long of a leash we saw that Travis Ford had.
Maybe,
and
but
Chaffetz loves them.
That's important. That's huge because that's the booster, right? Yeah. My pushback on that would be, what if they end up this year being a 9 seed, they lose in the first round, and then this is as good as it gets? I don't know how much of a leash he has. I mean, 3 to 5 years is probably what you're talking about, and I think that's the case if he goes somewhere else too, as long as he's not terrible. If he's an abject failure, look at Kim English. We're talking about the Providence job for a reason, and he's only been there for 3 years, and it's not going well thus far. I don't know, man. Some of these jobs I just look at, and if he's offered them, like you get offered that Cincinnati job, you get offered that Memphis job, you get offered the Syracuse Providence job, those are really good gigs, and you're going to be given the resources to be able to win. You've seen other guys that have a similar track record as Josh Schertz go there and win not only a little bit, but win at a high level. I mean, you go to Memphis, that's a really good program, man. He's had a history of recruiting in that area previously. He's lived in the area, not specifically in Memphis, but in Tennessee. He knows what it takes, and I've seen that Memphis program when it's at its best. They've got some big-time boosters. You've got a incredibly fertile recruiting ground. You've got that's the kind of gig I could see him really having success with. That's the one to me that I would be, I don't know if worried is the right word, but I would be most pinpointing if I was a SLU fan of what happens there? What happens with Penny? And then if you wanted to throw in Providence and Syracuse as well, those would be two others because of their proximity to where he originally grew up with as well. I just don't know what he wants. That's a big part of this, is ultimately it becomes Josh Schertz's decision. Does he want to create something at SLU, or does he say, my next job is actually the one that I'm going to create this culture at. My next job is the one that's going to be my forever home. And maybe that is Syracuse. Maybe that is Providence. Maybe he views himself as, the guy that can do at Memphis what Cal did at Memphis 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, and then leave for the Kentucky job?
I mean, that's the kind of thing that opens up if you do well there. You could use that as the jumping off point for not just a good job, but like Kansas or North Carolina or Kentucky. That's the kind of job that opens up for you if you win at Memphis or if you win at Providence, So it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see what the rest of the season means for his future at SLU. Coming up in 15 minutes, Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, but next, NFL Quick Hitters here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You excited for arm length conversations this week, Alex?
No, I want hand size. Let's go hand size. What quarterback's got tiny hands?
No, I'm not sure on that yet. I believe Nussmeier has very small hands.
Let's draft him first overall.
If I remember correctly, I think he's the guy that's like short, small hands, below average arm.
Perfect.
Probable top 50 pick.
This sounds like a Jets quarterback in the making.
You know the Pew Suter stuff? Small, slow, not a great shot.
Doesn't
best
have
player
skill.
on the ice.
Yeah. Only in hockey that actually equates to it being true.
Sure.
Football, not so much.
For this week, the NFL Draft Combine is taking place. Ruben Bain, one of the best players in the country this past season, defensive end for the University of Miami. He is expected to have roughly 31-inch arms. That would be first percentile among NFL defensive ends.
T-Bone.
In other words, 99% of defensive ends drafted in the NFL in the last 20 years have had longer arms than Ruben Bain. What teams typically try to do this time of the year, Alex, is eliminate outliers. If you are somebody that doesn't meet thresholds, in other words, you have to be this tall to ride the ride.
T-Bone.
If you are not that tall, we went down to Disney World. There were some rides that Luka couldn't do because he's not tall enough. Yeah. Ruben Bain, not long enough
You think
arms.
he suffers from that too, where he's not tall enough?
He doesn't have long enough arms to play defensive end for some teams. How much do you care about this stuff, Alex?
Zero. I watched that national championship game. That guy was one of the best players on the field. So you can have small arms all you want. Let me see how you go up against NFL competition, which, again, saw you do some of that in the national championship game. I would still draft that guy top 10.
I would too. I mean, I get it. Some teams, and you've brought this up before and you just brought it up there, like, yeah, this sometimes can lead to like an example as to why this guy's not going to work out at the NFL level. I watched that guy, as Alex said, and the eye test told me he's fine with his tiny T-Rex arms. I think that guy's a stud. I would not hesitate to draft him at all. So he's one of those guys that, to me, he's the outlier of having the tiny arms.
The list of defensive ends in the past 25 years that went to the NFL Combine and had 31-inch arms or shorter. Elijah Ponder. Have you heard of him?
No.
Wyatt Hubert.
Never heard of him.
Dean Lowry.
Never heard of him.
Cheda Ozugwu.
Well, pending the fact that you can't pronounce it, I would say I've never heard of him.
Ricky Elmore. Tyree Johnson.
This is not boding well for Ruben Bain.
Williams.
This is why he's a different animal.
Only guys under 32-inch arms that became legitimate NFL players. Marcus Golden of Mizzou and Carl Lawson from Auburn. Trey Hendrickson had 32-inch arms. Derek Barnett had 32.5-inch arms. That's your entire list of productive NFL players with 32.5-inch or shorter arms.
It's okay.
Size does matter, T-Bone, especially in the
tough,
draft.
Man.
Not if you got the will to do it.
It's tough. I agree with you guys. I would take him.
Nice.
He is the kind of player that I think is an outlier, and I'd bet on it at the NFL level. But
if he's there for the Chiefs, are you taking him as a Chiefs fan?
yeah.
I would too. I think I saw a mock draft that had him going after the Chiefs pick and the Chiefs taking Jeremiah Love. And as great as Jeremiah Love is, I think I would take Ruben Bain.
I wouldn't take a running back over him.
No.
If one of the receivers was there and you really love, like Mekhi Lemon from USC, all right, given their situation where I don't know if we're ever going to see Rashee Rice in a Chiefs uniform again, I don't think that they have another number one wide receiver on the roster. I'd probably go that direction, but that's really the only thing that I could see as a better fit right now. Speaking of wide receiver, over on ESPN.com, they had a breakdown today of the top trade candidates in the NFL. I want to go through these with you guys. Talk about if any of these guys, in your opinion, will actually be traded this offseason.
Okay.
Number one on their list, Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr., previously a first-round pick. They said it's a 20% chance that he gets traded. They like the Patriots, Bills, and Steelers as potential fits. Do you think he's dealt?
No, I say 0% chance, especially with them saying that Travis Hunter is going to just be exclusively a cornerback. No.
I'm with you. I don't understand why he keeps popping up in the
Because he had a bad
Can I
year.
explain why?
Sure, yes.
I have no idea what they're going to do to fix their cap situation. It's really tough.
Do what the Saints do. Just suck it up.
Take it down the line.
They
Go
are
for the credit card.
They're $13.5 million over the cap as of today. Now, for the Chiefs, I told you guys, don't look at that. It's fake. They can restructure
Well, you're a Chiefs fan,
Mahomes'
so that
deal.
makes sense.
Sure, but there's like a bunch of restructures that they could do to make it work. starting with Mahomes as the quarterback, that's typically the place where you begin, right? Well, they could restructure Trevor Lawrence's deal and to get exactly $1 million.
Hell yeah, we're almost there.
They can restructure Josh Allen's deal and get exactly $5 million.
Okay, so we're 6 away.
That's pretty much it. They've got other guys that are $5 million or so, but then you get into the cuts. Okay, we can cut Ezra Cleveland, save $4 million.
Sure, and now I'm 2 away.
That's it. There's nobody else that you can cut that saves you more than $2 million. So why would you trade somebody like a Brian Thomas Jr.? Because I don't know how else they're improving this roster this offseason, man.
You trade Brian Thomas Jr., who the hell are you throwing the football to?
That's the problem. You almost become worse
Jacoby Myers. And last year, I really liked what they were able to get down the stretch from Parker Washington.
Yeah, Parker Washington seems like a guy that opens it up, but I don't know if I would.
Those two receivers, and then you trade Brian Thomas Jr. and potentially pick one in the second round. I think you could make that work.
Trade Jacoby Meyer.
They just re-signed him. They can't.
Yeah.
Stupid Jaguars.
Yeah, they're in one of the spots that I find to be really interesting. I don't know how they maneuver this offseason.
And if I didn't realize their cap situation was that bad, it would make sense. I still wouldn't trade him. I think if you want to compete, and if I'm the Jaguars for how close I was this past year, man, I need to start showing progress forward rather than backwards. And I get Brian Thomas Jr. wasn't great down the stretch. I would still bank on him being a really good weapon for you offensively. And if I've got Trevor Lawrence as my quarterback, I need as many weapons as possible.
I'm with you guys. I don't think he gets dealt, but looking at their numbers, they're going to have to do something to free up some space this offseason, or they're just going to run it back with the same team as a year ago, but losing some of their best players. Devin Lloyd, who was a really good player for them last year, he's a free agent. Greg Newsome, starting cornerback for them last year, free agent. I don't know. I think this might have been their high water mark as a team, at least for
Glad we locked up Trevor Lawrence
before it really began.
Yeah. It's like the Lions. We said this about the Lions a couple of years ago.
They got like 2 years out of it.
I think the Lions got at least one more year where they can be competitive. I'm not too sure about the Jaguars.
Number 2 on the list, Devon Achane. They said 10% chance that he gets dealt, but if he does, Chiefs, Texans, and Vikings all make some sense. Dolphins are pretty clearly tanking for the upcoming year. I would trade him if I'm them.
I would trade him.
I'd get rid of having this running back on your team when you're going to suck.
I'd get rid of every talented player on that roster and make it a team that's going for the first overall pick next year.
Basically have, other than him.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot left.
I would trade him as well. I'll be curious to know like what they do, like what they're seeking value-wise. Because we see running backs just aren't valued across the league. Now, maybe that's changing. We've kind of maybe started to see that shift a little bit. Are they going to get enough what they want in return for him? That's the only hesitance I would have, but I would still lean on the upper end. Like, I'd be like 70% he gets traded.
Next one up is Jalen Waddle, also of the Dolphins. They said 10% chance he gets dealt. Steelers, Raiders, Ravens all make sense for him in their opinion.
I would go with Bills. The Bills go after that guy.
They tried at the deadline.
Oh, that's right.
They wanted, I think, a first-round pick for Jalen Waddle.
You got to get rid of everything now, so maybe they'll lower it to like a third.
He would be the guy that I would keep. I would keep him around. He's 26, 27 years old. I think he's a really good football player. Keep him around for part because he can be part of the team when they're good again, potentially in a few years. You're going to need some kind of talent, and he's already under contract.
I think I'd get as many assets as possible, and the guys that could bring me assets, I'm going to trade them.
Max Crosby next up. 60% chance of getting dealt according to ESPN.com. Bears, Pats, and Commanders all make sense according to them. I just want to see him on the Bears.
I just want to see him on a team that could win.
Same.
That dude needs to be playing playoff football, and it's an atrocity that he still plays for the Raiders. He should be in playoffs.
I don't know where I fall in this because it's a tradable contract, but I don't know if the Raiders are going to do it.
I agree.
I'm 50-50 on him, and I'd love to see him on, like, Bears is a great one. I could totally see where the Rams just say bleep them picks and try and make this happen. I'd love to see him get moved. I'm not sure the Raiders do it. I think they're actually going to keep him.
The next one up, I've flipped my opinion. I thought Max Crosby would be dealt. Now I don't. A.J. Brown, I thought, would not be dealt. Now I kind of do. They gave it a 60% chance that he's traded this offseason. I think A.J. Brown's going to be a Patriot.
I hope he's a Bill. I just want wide receivers to go to the Bills. Now, I know they got other issues to fix, but the Patriots, one that makes – Patriots need to get a wide receiver as well. But I'm with you. I think after Sirianni's comments and then him posting about his mental health battles, which kudos to him to be outspoken about that stuff, he needs to go somewhere where he can have a fresh start, and I hope he goes and has that.
I thought this last week when we kind of talked a little bit about A.J. Brown, you and I did, BK, and then he kind of told me about the contract situation, and I thought, okay, maybe they do end up keeping him, and then I saw the comments at the Combine, and I was like, okay, yeah, he's gone. I think it's like 70% chance he gets traded.
I think so, too. I think he's gone. Other names that are mentioned here, and you guys can just hone in on one of them, who you think is maybe the most interesting trade candidate. DK Metcalf from the Steelers. Kyler Murray, quarterback from the Cardinals. Sam Laporta is on this list from the Detroit Lions, I think, because they're going to have to re-sign a bunch of these guys, and they can only re-sign so many. They also include Spencer Rattler from the Saints. Minkah Fitzpatrick, also of the Dolphins. Speaking of the Dolphins, Tua on this list.
Everybody on the Dolphins is available.
That's right. Tanner McKee, the Philadelphia Eagles backup quarterback, is listed.
Really those guys.
Kayvon Thibodeau, former top 10 pick by the Giants. And then some of the honorable mentions include DJ Moore, Jordan Davis of the Philadelphia Eagles, and Anthony Richardson. Anybody in particular stand out to you among those?
Laporta's a fascinating one because he just acts as like another wide receiver now I know he dealt with injuries last year. He's an interesting one. DK Metcalf is another one. Like, I think Metcalf was pretty good this past year for the Steelers. He's another one. Like the wide receivers and the offensive weapons, I'm kind of fascinated with.
Thibodeau would be the one for me that stands out.
Wasn't he the one that had issues where they were benching him in season, or am I thinking somebody else?
I don't recall, but they basically drafted over him. He's on his fifth-year option this year. He was really good early on with the Giants, but now they just have dudes that are in front of him on the depth chart because of what they've drafted over the last couple of years. I think he could be a good player for somebody. Probably goes there, plays on that fifth-year option this season. They run it back with Brian Burns and Abdul Carter. Get a pretty good asset for Kayvon Thibodeau. He's a guy that I think actually probably will be traded this offseason.
I'd trade for Jordan Davis first.
Shocker. Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear you want Jordan Davis.
Just a monster.
I really wonder what his value would be. He's going into year 5.
I mean, he's stud is what his value is.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he's the one who basically, like, when he was not on the field, like, the Eagles defense looked like a shell of itself. When he was out there, like, whew, they were tough to play against.
Yeah, he'd be a fun one. I wonder what kind of a team could make that work with him. But the Eagles are in a weird spot.
They're going to be bad soon.
Don't they feel like the team that's at the biggest crossroads going into next season? Because I mentioned, like, if you look at Jalen Hurts' contract, like, if they don't play well this year, there's a chance Sirianni's fired and they can move on from Hurts if they don't like what they see. Because he's cuttable.
I think if you're moving off from Davis, if you're moving off of A.J. Brown, that team is continuing to dwindle down less and less.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. Good to be back with all three of us in studio. We get to talk to Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, next here on 101 ESPN.
Hey, when you are in the need of service, whether it's an appliance, it's something with your furnace, your air conditioner, your heater, maybe it's your favorite restaurant to go to, what do you love the most about the ones that you rely on? Customer service. That's why at Classic Air Care and their customer satisfaction guarantee, they care about what the customer needs are. They care about the quality of service you're getting. They care about the education you're getting on the problems you're having with your furnace or your air conditioner at home. And the bottom line is that's why they've got a 4.8 Google rating. Log on to ClassicAirCare.com. Check out the reviews they're getting, what people are saying about them. And here's why that's important. You know that when something goes wrong with your furnace, you know that right now it's a stressful time. It's inconvenient. It's never easy. They've got over 100 vans on the road. They can get to you typically within 24 hours. They've got guys with over 40 years of experience, some of them, in working on every unit possible. They can solve your problem. They can get your home comfortable, and they can make you comfortable as well. It's really that simple. Now in February, they still have a great promotion going. If you end up needing a new furnace, you've been waiting to decide and you want one now, they're going to give you a free water heater at the same time. It's Classic Air Care. It's customer service. It's quality that keeps your home comfortable, and they've been making people comfortable since 1926.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night, the Missouri Tigers took down Tennessee 73-69 on their home floor. Meanwhile, SLU was upset in Dayton as they fell 77-62. And the Blues back in action tomorrow night as they return from the Olympic break. They'll be hosting the Seattle Kraken. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Good to have all three of us back into the mix, and we are going out to the Callier and Thompson hotline right now to be joined by the voice of the Blues. He's Chris Kerber joining us here on BK and Ferrario. Blues back in action tomorrow night against the Kraken, then another game on Saturday. Alex, that will be the Bluey game, which I'll be in attendance for out there at the Enterprise.
I was going to get tickets for my wife and the girls, but my wife has a event that she's going to, an animal shelter charity that she's going to in the afternoon. So I'll just enjoy Bluey by myself and send pictures to my girls.
And Bingo will be there. It's the Build-A-Bear game as well.
Are you going to take a picture with Bluey and Bingo?
On Saturday afternoon here in St. Louis.
Fantastic. And then they start the slew of back-to-backs in the month of March, starting on, March 1st.
Chris Kerber going to be following all of the action, and you'll be able to hear him right here on 101 ESPN. Kerbs, how you doing today, man?
Fellas, I'm good. How are you?
Doing really well. Kerbs, in your opinion, what's the number one storyline in the second half of the season for the Blues?
You know what? I want to see in the second, the final 25 games. We're well into that second half.
I guess
for
that's
me,
fair.
Got him.
In all fairness, I think there's two. I think the biggest storyline is going to be, what does this roster look after March 6th? That's the clear and obvious one. And then the second one after that, I really just want to see how Philip Broberg, how Otto Stenberg, how Jimmy Snuggerud, and some of these young guys, Dalibor Dvorsky, talked to him a little bit this morning along with Broberg. I want to see how those guys really perform in these final 25 games and as much experience as those guys can get.
Curbs, that was mine. We talked about it earlier today on the podcast. Like Dalibor Dvorsky's end of the season to me is the biggest storyline. I'm fascinated to see how he takes that confidence from Olympic play where he had success going up against the best in those countries and carrying that over and continuing to excel as what he ended this stretch going into the break as a second-line center for the Blues.
In the last 2 days, I've talked to Pius Suter, Philip Broberg, and Dalibor Dvorsky, and when I asked about the level of play and what it was like, all of them, their eyes went big, and they said, man, it was fast, right? Faster than typically see. I mean, look, it's best on best, and it's all-star teams in single elimination games, right? But the level of confidence that he had, knowing that he could play on that level, you know, playing against and with other players, all of them talk about the experience that they learned. But I agree with you. Look, I look at the development of Dalibor Dvorsky and I compare it to Robert Thomas. And the biggest difference is Robert Thomas played the wing the first couple of years while you had a Tyler Bozak winding down his career. You had Pat Maroon the 1 year, obviously, and then they slid him over. Dalibor Dvorsky, after the call-up because of injuries, has basically had baptism by fire. You're a centerman in the league at the age of 20, and it takes a while. So I have not looked at his production with any concern or any of that because there's so many other aspects of the game that these guys are going through and dealing with that I don't think he's been able to play instinctively yet because there's so much thought going through. So, yep, he's one of those guys, like I mentioned, that, you know, the more ice time, the more matchups, the key face-offs against big people, it's just going to help you down the road. You've got a window now to give it to them, and, you know, without it sacrificing your season, because I think that's kind of where you're at. So, to me, you got to make sure he gets that experience.
Curbs, I found it interesting. Booch, Kyrou, Neighbors, that's your top line today at morning skate. It seems as though Booch is going to get another extended run here down the stretch as a center. He did that a little bit before the break as well. What'd you see from him prior to the break at the center position? And do you think this is a real chance for him to be a center, you know, over the next few years for the St. Louis Blues?
Yeah, I think if the need is there, I think that's the case. I think him playing in the middle allows them to put Dvorsky, as we were just talking about, in situations to be successful and it not become too heavy or burdensome. And I'll go back, you know, when they tried to play him at the beginning of last year, he didn't resist it. He puts a ton of pressure on himself to win faceoffs and things. He cares that much about the team that he works hard at it. So I'll go back to remember when Andy Murray was here, and ironically it was a rebuilding time then, they drafted David Backes as a winger. Andy Murray said, we got to turn him into a centerman, and David Backes became a centerman. Now, that's at the beginning of a career, not in the middle of it like this is, but at least for right now, and assuming health situations are somewhat the same, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't see him in the middle, for a while here.
Curbs, I don't know this to be true, but I have to imagine that, you know, when the Blues return to play, the more wins that they pick up, the more frustrated fans might be because they want to see a top pick for this Blues team. How important is it for the Blues' health moving forward to get a top 2, top 3 pick in this year's draft?
So are you asking, do they need to be injured?
No, sorry, health of the organization, like trying to put them back into a winning status.
Organization. So, you know, it's an interesting, it's a fantastic topic to dig into here because when you look at the situation that the St. Louis Blues are in, right, you're looking at a team that in their entire 58-year history has only had 6 top 5 picks overall, right? And the last time they took a forward with a top 5 pick was 1979 when they took Perry Turnbull. I mean, they've only had 2 top 5 picks since 1979. And to give you an example, when New Jersey comes into town on Saturday, New Jersey is picked in the top 10 and 7 of the last 11 drafts, and they've had 4 top 5 picks in that window, right? So there's different ways of looking at it. Bernie Federko was a 7th overall pick. Jaden Schwartz was a 14th. Tarasenko was a 16th. You know, I think with the depth of the top 5 in this draft, if the Blues end up getting it, it's a fantastic situation for the Blues. It's hard to hear. It's hard to understand. And look, 2 months ago, we're not talking about this. A month and a half ago, you're talking about a team that's sitting just a few points out of a playoff spot, and you're thinking the playoffs are there. Now you're 14 points out. Just to get to 95 points, you'd have to win. You got to win pretty much like 22 out of your 25 games with all the road and the West Coast trips. Like, there's certain realities that kick in here. And I think the reality of it is right now, if you end up with a top 5 pick, it's gonna be one of those things where this season is not a loss in my book. Because you're like Chicago right now would end up with another possible top 5 pick. Like, holy smokes. And the Blues are trying to do it, constantly picking and finding gems at 20th, 19th, 27th. Look where Oshie was drafted. Look where Bergen. Look where guys that got the Backus in the second round. Parayko in the third round. Bennington in the third round. Look where they're finding their hay. You take that kind of scouting ability and put them in a top 5 scenario, and I think the Blues end up hitting a home run.
Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joining us for just another couple of minutes here on BK and Ferrario. Kerbs, we're just about, I think it's 10 days away from the NHL's trade deadline, which is coming up on March the 6th. I know that the Blues have a lot of decisions to make between now and then, Kerbs. They only have 4 games to really kind of check out what they've got currently internally.
Yes.
How much activity do you think that we should see by the time we get officially to that NHL trade deadline date?
I don't have any inside dope on this one, so this is just my opinion. I think we're going to see a pretty active team. I'm going to base that based on the history of Doug Armstrong that we've known here as the St. Louis Blues. I'm going to base that on the fact that you've got players that are not just rental players. They're players that, most of the players that the Blues could trade, actually just about all of them, in terms of, the big names or the veteran names have at least one more year of term, if not 2 on their deal. But the other factor here, BK, and this is a fascinating one, is obviously guys like Kyrou and Thomas and Parayko have full no-trade clauses. Guys like Falk and Shen and Bennington have modified no-trade clauses. Now, they had to get those lists in, obviously, early, right? How does that play into it? If what we've heard in the reporting is real, we've seen Torrey Krug turn down a deal. We've seen Braden Shen turn down a deal. So those no-trade clauses can put it in there. And just real quick on a personal aspect for that, imagine being a player like, say, a Justin Falk. You've got a 15-team or a 16-team no-trade list, right? You sit down with your wife, you've got a young family, and you're going, okay, there's 31 possible cities we could go to. Which 15 are you willing to go play in, right? And if you want to look for a competitor or a contender, I don't know, do you consider Detroit a contender right now? And I'm not sure the answer to that is yes. So these are some real tense personal times for these guys, which is why I really am always very careful in dealing with rumors. But having said it all, I think you look around the league, you look at the cap space, there's room, there's term, there's a lot of possibilities here for the Blues to take this team in different directions. And so I'm anticipating, to me, what I believe actually could be one of the most fascinating trade deadlines that the Blues have been involved with since I've been here since 2000, and even more fascinating, honestly, than the ones where you traded O'Reilly and Tarasenko, because those guys were going to be traded, and they said that in advance. This one's got intrigue, both in terms of the potential for who, and intrigue in terms of what it means for the direction of this franchise.
Should be a really interesting next 10 days. You'll be able to hear it all right here on 101 ESPN. Blues back in action tomorrow against the Kraken. Kerbs on the call. Pregame starts at 6, puck drop at 7, right here in your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. Kerbs, appreciate the time as always, man. Looking forward to hearing you and Joe back on the call tomorrow night. We'll talk with you again next week.
All right, guys, have an awesome week. Here we go. Final 25 of the regular season, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Here we go.
Appreciate you as always. That's Chris Kerber joining us here on 101 ESPN. Alex, on the deadline, I want to bring up a conversation with you that I had a little bit yesterday with T-Bone, kind of offhand. So, did you see the report about Florida potentially listening on Bobrovsky?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I heard this conversation that you guys had about getting creative and flipping Bennington to them.
What do you think about a 3-team deal? I don't know who would be able to make it work. I don't know where Bobrovsky ends up in this scenario that sends the Blues assets, but he is the prototypical, hey, we've got a chance to go on a run here. This is our final piece. We know he sucked this year, but, man, look at the history. Like, the track record is such that I can trust that guy's going to be really good when the moments matter the most. the Panthers need a more long-term answer at the position because they're not just trying to win now, but they're trying to win for the next few seasons. And this year, it's probably just not going to happen for them. So they punt on this year, get Benner in place for next year and beyond. Somebody else gets Bobrovsky, and the Blues end up getting draft picks / prospects, whatever, in return.
Yeah.
Well, do you think that's realistic?
Realistic? Probably not.
Damn. Damn, I like it.
I do think it's a really good idea, though. Like, why I don't think it's realistic is I don't know if Florida would want Binnington, right?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I wonder if they look, because they have nothing in their system. You're absolutely correct on that. But I wonder if they're going to kind of wait and see what's out there. And I think I heard you say this, that if I'm Florida, I'll just go back and re-sign Bobrovsky next year. That's what I do if I'm Florida. I just wait and say, I'll go get my goaltender in free agency, because guess what? Everyone wants to play for me. So the best goalie that's out there, I'll bring him back, Bobrovsky, or I'll go sign this guy. I don't know if they'd have an appetite for Binnington, but I do think it's very creative, because if I'm the Blues, I not only would try and do that, I'd tell the third team, hey, we'll eat 50% of Bobrovsky's contract for you. Like, I would just be the third. They can't
anymore.
Oh, is that new salary cap? Oh,
yeah.
I forgot about that one. That sucks.
Agreed, though. I mean, ideally,
that's the way to do it. I mean, because then if you do that, you're getting assets from Florida, and you're getting assets from the team if you're the middleman. But if you can't be the middleman anymore, I forgot about that. But it's creative. I don't think so. I remain stern on the fact I don't think Binnington gets traded until next year's deadline. I think they look at this and say, we need 2 goalies. Unless they get a goalie from another team at this year's deadline or in the offseason via trade.
Maybe like a Skinner, for example.
No, he's terrible. I don't know if you guys have seen that or not. He's been awful. I'm thinking more like if I call Detroit and let's say Justin Falk gets traded there and you trade for one of they got a kid who's in the AHL right now who is getting close to being NHL ready. If you trade for that, then I could say pull a Binnington trade off right now. But I think they keep him because they're going to try and be competitive next year, and then you move them at the deadline when they're not competitive.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. Going to be a very interesting next 10 days for the St. Louis Blues. We'll keep you apprised with all the latest right here on 101 ESPN. Coming up in 15 minutes, Cardinals have a bottom 5 lineup in Major League Baseball, according to ESPN.com. That's not overly surprising, but when you look at what all of the top 10 lineups have, it's very clear what they're missing. We'll get into that coming up in just a little bit. Junk Drawer, though, is next here on 101 ESPN. How about Nolan Gorman hitting a ding-dong Johnson today? You like that, T-Bone?
Is that how we're up 3-0?
Here, incoming 40 home run season for Nolan Gorman.
Nolan Gorman with a 103-mile-an-hour homer off
Who'd he
the
hit it
bat.
off
of? Jonah Tong, a guy that's actually going to be a part of the big league roster, most likely for the New York Mets.
There we go. Let's get excited. That just ticked him up 2 more wins this season.
He was making lunch. The text I got was, Gorman! Exclamation point.
Big
I
one.
don't think it just needs an exclamation point, man. It's only the 7th game of spring training.
I got to take my chances while I can get him. I don't know how many he's going to have this year.
Why don't we wait until the regular season begins before we start using exclamation points?
Also, Richard Fitz is throwing 97 miles an hour today. I don't know where this came from.
I don't know why that's surprising. Look at him. Of course he's throwing 96, 97.
He looks like a linebacker.
That guy's got muscle, just untapped muscle that we don't even know about.
Alex...
Yeah.
What do you have for us today in the junk drawer?
Man, I just got to tell you guys what my life has been like these last 2 weeks because we did everything. Like the what did I call it? Stay-at-home vacation, the staycation. I mean, everything that we went out. So one day I did day dates with my girls, at least my 2 oldest. My little one doesn't really know what's going on. But we did Chuck E. Cheese, or as my 5-year-old calls it, Chunky Cheese.
It's great.
Going there, pro tip for anybody who's got kids, going to Chuck E. Cheese in the middle of the week at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, you just basically own the place. There's nobody else there. There was one worker who was in the kitchen the entire time. You just own the spot.
Love it.
Wild in itself. But my daughter didn't really like old Chuck E. Cheese. She got bored about 15 minutes in, which I told her, I said, I bought an hour worth of games, so you better go out there and figure out what you want to do. The other one, we took a trip to Suisun Park. I don't know if anybody's been there before, but got a nice playground area, and then they got like a little animal farm. But the big ones that we did. So Joey Vitale connected me with the owners over at Missouri Bakery, Joe Lordo and his wife, Mimi. They invited us to come and do a tour at Missouri Bakery.
Oh, cool.
And so I've talked about Missouri Bakery in the past on the show. Like, if you haven't had it, you haven't lived St. Louis pastries. It's phenomenal in itself. And so Joe reached out to Joey and said, hey, I want to talk to Alex. And so I got the conversation with him, found out that apparently she's connected with my grandma. They were best friends growing up.
Really?
So we had no clue that there was this family connection until we went down there. And I just got to shout them out because they were incredible. So they told me to bring my girls. They're like, bring your family with you. And I'm like, you understand, I've got a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. That's a bad idea. The moment we got there, Joe grabbed my oldest's hand and said, come with me. They walked us through the entire bakery, showed us where they made everything. They gave the girls a tour. And then they sat there and they just loaded us up with stuff to bring home. And they told me how much they love BK and Ferrario, that he listens all the time.
These guys.
Shout out.
But I mean, watching my girls walk through a bakery was the funniest thing ever. My middle Emma, she's walking up to all of these ovens and what's this? And it's this huge ass oven. And they're like, don't touch that. She's like, but what's in here? Watching them do the icing on top of the cake. I mean, they were in freaking heaven. And so now, again, the lady's name that owns it is Mimi. And so we call my mother-in-law Mimi. And so Joey and I were joking about this because his kids do it as well. Says we're going to go see Mimi, and they're like, which Mimi are we going to see? Are we going to see Grandma Mimi, or are we going to the bakery Mimi? So now my kids think the bakery Mimi is the new Mimi.
Sure.
So unfortunately, shout out to them because that's probably the more popular Mimi right now. But we did that. I did a golf simulator while I was off. I don't know if you guys have ever done one of these before. I was terrible at it. I broke actually.
The machine?
No, not the machine, but they had these signs up on the wall. I hit one and it went wide and it smashed one of the walls. I'm like, ooh. So
it's broken when I got here.
Get outside.
And then I did a daddy-daughter dance with my oldest, which was very fun.
How'd that go?
Good. She stayed for the whole 2 hours, which I didn't think she would want to. Did 5 minutes of dancing and then did the snack table. They had a glow stick table. And then they did, I think we did 17 different selfies. So you wait in line to go.
Sticks, bubble machines. That's really where it's at. Why didn't we come up with bubble machines?
Oh, I don't know.
We would have been
this is the same as the fireplace log on YouTube with all of the Christmas music. Why didn't we come up with this? This is simple enough. You make a ton of money off of this. So But yeah, no, glow sticks. They all basically, it was her and her 4 friends. They just kept going to the table and taking more and more glow sticks and making a glow stick snake that they carried around.
Love it.
Dad just
It's
sat
the
there and
little
watched.
things, man.
Oh my God, there was so much fun watching her though, like run around with her friends and jump up and down and play. So it was a really fun, like 7 days of just being home and doing different things with the girls.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. We're all back in, I think, for the next month.
Well, I'm here until June or July. I don't.
I'm off 1 day in March. That's about it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here until the end of the season.
It's going to be great. T-Bone's going to be out for the first day of the NCAA tournament, or second day of the NCAA tournament.
Smart.
But other than that, I think we're all actually going to be around for a little
Ready,
while.
ladies and gentlemen, we're here.
I hope you, for some, that's a threat. For others, you will appreciate
It's
that.
the perfect time to do this because Cardinals are back in action. Everyone's hyped up on them. Blues making a playoff push.
Nothing like getting back to the 2 rebuilds.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll dive into more likely to happen. But next, the Cardinals have a bottom 5 lineup in Major League Baseball. What are they missing? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Alex, breaking news for you.
If you tell me Nolan Gorman hit another home run, I'm going to lose my
It's
I
even
made
less
that
important.
40
It's not
home
even
runs.
actual news.
Well, that checks out for you. Did Kyle Gibson
Sorry.
say he's coming back?
I'm sorry. Cardinals have a bottom 5 offense in Major League Baseball, according to ESPN.com.
Why would you even say breaking news?
That's on me. I apologize.
You're enjoying watermelons too much over there.
We had this conversation at like 10:30 this morning, but this was our 1 o'clock segment.
Breaking news. Hey, breaking news. The Cardinals are going into a build.
Was eating a turkey burger during the break.
Oh, that's why you lost your mind, because it's trash.
Breaks are a little short right now. Thought I had more time than I did.
That was a normal break. What are you talking about?
So with food in your mouth,
I'm
you thought
lashing out in all
breaking
directions,
news.
okay?
Don't take your anger out on us because you can't chew fast enough.
So anyways, Cardinals 25th in Major League Baseball, and
breaking
their
news,
lineup, according to
Fred Luis Garcia's pitching
ESPN.com.
for the Mets now. Breaking.
What's the breaking news through all of this, man?
There is none.
Oh, okay. Cool. It's a good segment.
Now, the reason why I found this to be interesting, Alex, is because I think they did a really good job of breaking this down. They gave it a grade for individual tools, so hit tool, patience, power, base running, durability, depth, all these different things. The Cardinals did not rate particularly well on anything other than base running and depth. They're pretty deep as a roster. They just don't have any of the top guys.
They're pretty deep as a roster, but yeah, we were arguing if Fermin or Saggese starting in left field for you this season.
Yeah, that's the problem. They don't have like plus players very many spots.
Ramon Urias is going to be getting a lot of at-bats.
According to this breakdown, the Cardinals have 3 star level players, position players on their roster. Now, I think they've got 2 guys that are definitely like all-star caliber, or at least could be in any given season, with Herrera and Burleson. I could throw Mason Wynn into that mix as well.
Not even a top 100 player.
I wouldn't if you're grading it on your lineup construction, but
I think they're probably
kind of
saying,
agree with you.
I think they're probably saying Weatherholt.
Maybe.
With the third one.
They were going for.
I don't know. It doesn't break it down in that way, but...
Which is wild to say Weatherholt, that we haven't even seen him take an at-bat at Major League Baseball. We're already labeling him star.
I would say 2 for me.
Extend him already.
If we're just talking about the lineup. When I go up to the top 5 and how many stars these teams have in their respective lineups.
Well, the Dodgers, every single position.
They have 7.
Of course they do.
Braves 6, Mets 6, Mariners 5, Blue Jays 4, but they're all really, really, really good. Cubs 5, Yankees 3, but superstars. Phillies 6, Diamondbacks 3. Like, you get up to the top 8 or so, you're talking about 5-ish star-level position players in your lineup. Alex, it's just a simple way to break down what we've said 100 different times. Mm-hmm. The Cardinals are missing 2 big-time bats in the middle of their order. Yeah. That's what they're missing right now. And they won't really get back into contention until they're able to find those guys.
Right, and they didn't break it down this way, but you could go star and then superstar, because of all of those top lineups that you just mentioned, a majority, if not all of them, have at least 1 or at least 2 superstars, and that's your 3-4 hitters. As much as we can say Burleson and Herrera have that star quality, and I agree that they do, we've seen it, you don't have a superstar. You don't have a middle-of-the-order bat. When somebody thinks of the Cardinals, they think of, oh, crap, we got to deal with that guy. And that's what it's going to take. I mean, and it's why I thought they were going to be really aggressive when they were making these trades to go out there and find a position player. They didn't. They went after what they could get, which is pitching, which is a good thing for how they've redefined their pitching pipeline. But their next and biggest task is going out there and finding that young player that can turn into that superstar, because that's how we can sit here and talk all we want about developing prospects and finding the right guys and fixing the right system with the right minds that are in charge of it. None of that matters until you find that one bat that can change the outlook of your lineup.
Yeah, otherwise you just get kind of stuck like they did in the last couple of years, which is you end up stuck with guys that are good players, but you don't have those middle mashers, and you kind of tread around like a 500 ball club. You got to have those middle of the order bats if you're going to be able to take that step from being an average team to a great team. And when you're looking at the way that they're building right now, and again, these builds, like, people will look at this and say, well, maybe they don't. Do they even have those 2 guys internally? Maybe not. Maybe you got one coming in, Rodriguez, that can add to this mix. I don't know, he'll be a superstar, but at least you've got another one that's probably coming in your minor league system. But that can all change, too, based on a deadline. That can change based on the draft, where you're going to have this many picks that they end up having. Odds are they're probably going to have to, at some point, they'll figure this out externally. They may have to go out and find their path to getting someone from outside the organization, and that's where I'll be fascinated to see where this build goes, because it's okay if you can develop them all internally, Problem is I wouldn't bet on that today, that you develop 5 stars internally to help fill out this lineup, and especially in that middle of the order.
It'd be nice for them to develop their next Albert, their next Yachty, the next Brian Jordan, for example. And those are 3 of the 4 names that were put on the 2026 Cardinals Hall of Fame ballot, which was announced earlier today. The 4th and final name on that list is George Hendrick. Previously, you could vote for one, and you would get 1 member into that year's Hall of Fame class. According to Derek Gould, that may be changing this time around. Derek Gould saying on Twitter today, well, you can vote for 1 each time you log in. As many as 2 can be selected for the Hall. Cardinals not limiting inductions class to 1 fan-picked player in what could be the biggest induction class ever since the Cardinals Hall of Fame's opening. This is all according to Derek Gould over on Twitter. That makes sense. You can't limit this to one of Yachty or Albert this year. It would make no sense. It would be a complete slap in the face to whoever didn't get into this year's class.
That's embarrassing.
Then whoever doesn't get in that scenario would go to next year. It would just flip to the following year when you have Wayno that is in on the ballot for that upcoming year.
They should have put the qualifier out there when this email was released of, hey, this is the first year that 2 guys are going to get put in. Like, what are we going to act as if only 1 guy is going to get picked? Also, I feel horrible for Brian Jordan, who's just like, whoa, what? Come on. You couldn't have put me on a list without Pujols and Yachty.
The press release just not in the 2. Albert and Yachty. Yeah. All right, you get to vote for these guys, and 2 are getting in.
Yeah, the press release should have honestly just said, hey, this year we're doing it differently. These 2 are going into the Cardinals Hall of Fame together. Like, you don't need to vote. We know who's getting the votes. Put them in together.
It's sponsored, though, so they have to have
You have to make it look okay, cool. Well, congrats, sponsor. Well, you get
Congratulations to Edward Jones for having the vote presented by them.
You get to vote for bragging rights between Yachty and Pujols because both are going in.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, coming up in about 15 minutes, T.O. Barrett saved Mizzou's season. We'll talk about it coming up at 1:30. More likely to happen. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. You give us 2 scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely next year on 101 ESPN. Alex, the NFL season is over, but that doesn't mean that the NFL action is completely gone when it comes to the Underdog app. I logged in earlier today, and guess what? I got set for the NFL Draft Combine, where they've got 40 times ready to go. I've got Alex's new favorite NFL player ready to go for you. His name is Caleb Banks. He's a defensive tackle from Florida. He's 6'6". He's 330 pounds.
Oh, my God.
I have him running faster than a 5.2 40. You can get that action over on the Underdog app. I also have Arvell Reese running faster than 4.5 run, and Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M, faster than 4.41. If you want to get those picks in for the NFL Combine, you can do that. They've also got NBA, college basketball. It's all available for you on the Underdog app.
And NHL, there's 8 games back tonight, so you know I'll be looking over at that for the rest of the NHL season. Take advantage of it and enjoy the Underdog app. Download it today. Use promo code BKO to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO. Underdog. Make plays. Win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-MY-RESET or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Oh, I missed that. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. You give us 2 scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely here on 101 ESPN. I'm going to the college hoops side of things, Alex.
Okay.
We're talking about this in the office earlier today, and T-Bone actually, I thought, made a really excellent point.
Doesn't happen often.
It did happen today, though.
Way to go, T-Bone.
I'll give him credit where it's due.
I'm not on air.
He mentioned, man, I think that the Big Ten and the Big 12 are going to dominate when it comes to the teams that remain in the Sweet 16. And I was like, how many teams do you think they're going to get? He's like, I don't know, 10. That seems crazy. How many teams from other conferences are going to get there? And then I actually looked into it. He might have had a point here. So the Big Ten
crazy.
has 5 of the top 11 teams in the country, according to KenPom. The Big 12 has 5 of the top 12 teams in the country. So, do some quick math. 10 of the top 12 teams in the country, according to KenPom, reside in those 2 conferences, respectively. So I'll say, more likely to happen, we get 10 teams from the Big 10/Big 12 remaining in the Sweet 16, or we get only 6 teams from those 2 conferences. 10 or 6 more likely to happen in the Sweet 16 from the Big 12 and the Big 10.
I think I'm going to go 10 is more likely to happen. Because if we're talking Sweet 16, I think because those seem to be the powerhouses more so than the SEC. Typically, I go to the SEC, but man, SEC has not been impressive to me this season. And I think a lot of people have that same feel, especially now that we're talking about Mizzou potentially getting a double bye. I think it's more likely you see 10 over 6.
I do too. I think it's more likely it's 10. And I think the thing that will play it to their advantage to get to the Sweet 16, you just kind of look at the bracket and how a lot of people have it playing out, and a lot of them are in these top Big 10 and top Big 12 schools are in that like 1 to 4 range. A lot of the SEC schools, even though it might be the conference that sends the most teams to the tournament, most of them are sitting in that like 7 through 11 range, which means they're going to run into these guys when they get to the second round. And right now, I would pick most of those teams from the Big 10 and Big 12 to win those matchups because I don't think this SEC conference is that good. So, and they'll be avoiding each other to try and get to the Sweet 16. So, yeah, I would say it's more likely that you end up with 10 teams from those 2 conferences.
He
in the Sweet 16.
converted me on this. I think he's right. I think it's 10 or more.
Got him, T-Bone.
The number of teams from those 2 conferences, respectively, that have like it reminds me a lot of the Big Ten in college football this year, where you look at the Big Ten, the top of that conference, it was so much better than the SEC.
Yeah.
But then if you get to 7 through 11, yeah, the SEC's deeper. We've never judged conferences that way. Never. We've always judged it based on, do you have the best teams in America? And then suddenly this year, there were some SEC honks that were like, no, look at how deep the conference is. Yeah, cool, great. The same thing is true of basketball. The SEC has 12 really good teams. They've got one great team. The Big Ten has like 5. I'm going to say it's more likely the Big Ten and the Big 12 combined for 10 of the 16 Sweet 16 teams this year. Alex?
Guys, I don't know if you saw this news, but the Montreal Canadiens will be back in action tomorrow, and not playing for them will be Zach Bolduc. He will be a healthy scratch. No, he's not ill. His play is not ill either. That was bad. Never mind. More likely to happen. Next season, we're talking more likely that the trade was a bust for the Blues, or more likely people are on the side of, hey, that was a good trade for St. Louis. Next season. Because if you look at Montreal, Bolduc's not a top 6 forward for them. He's not playing over Slafkovsky, Caulfield. Who's the other one that's up there? They've got 2 other guys. I mean, right now, Texier is playing over Zach Bolduc.
Yeah. I'll still say bust. The reason being, like, man, who are the wingers that are going to be here next year? Who are you building around winger-wise?
Neighbors, Holloway, Snuggerud, Berggren, Stenberg.
Are you building around Berggren, or is he going to be here next year?
Well, you asked me who are you.
I know. I should have clarified. Who are you building around?
Neighbors, Holloway, Snuggerud, Stenberg, potential of a top 2 pick, and Carbonneau. Those are your top 9. Those are your 9 best wingers next season.
Yeah.
And I've said this since they moved Bolduc. I think them drafting Carbonneau made Bolduc expendable because they said, we think Carbonneau could do what Bolduc does.
Yeah. I'll say still bust just because I think you'd like to have Bolduc here, and I haven't seen enough from Mayu to really feel good about it. But that being said, like I think this was about the next 3 to 5. It was
always about this year.
I know. I never thought it was about the immediate future. Bolduc has 1 goal in his last 23 games, so that's probably why he's going to be a
I will say
scratch.
this before T-Bone answers. Look for Mayu to play with Broberg the rest of the way. They've been since the skate, and I know Parayko's been away, but they've been playing Kessel with Fowler. And since Broberg returned, which was only yesterday, Mayu's been playing with Broberg, and they've had Falk and Tucker together. I really think they're going to put Parayko and Fowler back together, which is going to give Mayu top 4 minutes.
Yeah, I would lean towards fans will still view it as a bust just because Bolduc kind of became a fan favorite here in St. Louis. And I think a lot of people, based on what we've seen from Mayu so far, would say that guy's not going to make it, which is too early to determine, but a lot of people will maybe make that judgment early on, and they'll say, well, if Bolduc was here, he wouldn't be having those struggles. And I think that's the way a lot of fans view it, so I would say it's more likely that is the way they would go. Guys, more likely to happen, J.J. Weatherholt hits 25 home runs this season, or Jordan Walker hits 25 bombs?
I'm going to say Jordan Walker.
You said 25 for Weatherholt?
And
25 just feels like a really big ask for J.J. Weatherholt.
Feels like a big ask for Walker.
I was going to say, it feels like, and I'm just going to go because it's an unknown to me. We could find out that Weatherholt's got this potential and power that we just didn't believe was possible. I don't see a scenario where Walker hits 25 home runs.
I mean, we always do this. Like Walker 2 years ago. I know. I'm with you guys.
Why do we always do it? Because
I view
he didn't
it as
do it.
extremely unlikely. But in 2023, Jordan Walker hit 16 home runs in 117 games. So he has the power to be able to do this. I do not believe that he's going to hit 25 home runs this year. I'm not predicting it. I just think J.J. Weatherholt is extremely unlikely to do so as well. He hit 17 home runs last year in the minors. I don't think he has this kind of power. So I'll say Walker just because I think he's much more likely to access that power at this level than J.J. Weatherholt is.
I would say Walker. And it's not because of anything against J.J. Weatherholt. I think Weatherholt has a slower year than some people are expecting. And if that's the case, you're not really going to see the power numbers. To your point on Walker, my bet today is he's still mowing the grass between home plate and the pitcher's mound with all the ground balls he hits. But he still has some power potential. And because he's been in the big leagues now for 3 seasons, maybe it was just things weren't clicking. And now that he sees that his future is in limbo to be not just a Cardinal, but a major leaguer, maybe it all clicks into place. I would say him.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. From the 314, more likely to happen, T-Bone picks Illinois to lose in the first round or Mizzou to win in the first round.
Well, T-Bone's
it's more
never
likely that
pick.
he picks Mizzou to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pick Illinois to lose to a 15
He'll be playing
seed.
a 15, so I'm not seeing that happen.
You're going to be a Mizzou fan. I knew it.
No.
Poser.
More likely to happen from the 636. UConn will win in the men's and women's tournament, or the Big Ten ends their 26-year drought on the men's side. I can't believe has it really been 26 years since the Big Ten has won a national title on the men's side? That's crazy.
I guess so, because like UConn, Purdue hasn't gotten there. Illinois hasn't gotten there.
No, it didn't. Purdue won.
No, they didn't ever won one. I don't think. I thought they lost like in the Final Four with Edey because that was like his best team, if I remember correctly. I don't think he's won a title there. Izzo would have been one that won a title, but was that 26 years ago?
They were runner-up in 24. Damn it.
See, I knew they didn't win.
Edey didn't win.
Yeah.
Damn. I think Big Ten to answer the question.
I do too, because there's plenty of outs there. Like I think Illinois is capable of it. Michigan's capable of it. Michigan State is capable of it. Is there somebody I missed there? I know a lot of people think Nebraska's not as good. That Nebraska team is very good. I don't know if they can win it all. If the bracket falls their way, maybe. But yeah, I would lean Big Ten wins it all.
I got to look this up. This feels impossible that it's been that long.
Because I feel like Izzo did it recently, but I guess not.
Michigan State in 2000 was the most recent team. That's crazy, man.
How many runner-ups have they had? Do you have the championship games?
Purdue in 2024 did it. Michigan in 2018 did it. Wisconsin in 2015 did it. Michigan in 2013 did it. Michigan State in 2009 did it. Ohio State in 2007. Illinois in 2005. Indiana in 2002. So they've gone to the national title game. Wow. So I guess here's your bet. Bet on the Big Ten to lose in the national championship game if you're using history.
I knew you couldn't get it done, T-Bone.
If T-Bone's Illini get to the national title game and they lose it,
Duke and Illinois, and then Illinois loses.
Like as big an Illinois fan as I am, I can tell you now, I'm not sure I'm going to have them getting to the Final Four.
No. Wow.
I don't think they can get enough stops.
Because they're a choke artist like they always are.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line.
Oh, we know that.
More likely to happen. Guys, more likely to reach the Sweet 16, Mizzou or SLU?
I would bet Mizzou today. And it's not because I like what I see from Mizzou. I still think they're a first-round exit team. But I would rather bet on the team that's playing their best basketball at this time of year compared to the team that's stubbed their toe and is clearly kind of flailing in the wind.
Yeah, I'd like to say none, but I think my option would be Mizzou because I don't see how SLU gets past a 1 or a 2 seed in the second round.
I'm going to stick with SLU for now. I don't want to overreact.
Just, come on, man.
I also don't want to BKO my Tigers.
Yeah, well, come on. They'll do that themselves. Neither of these teams are getting to the Sweet 16, but
I agree.
I mean, we know if Gates runs into a non-power team in the tournament, he's going to lose. He's done it the last 2 times.
It'd be good if he ran into
an Ivy League school.
No, who was the sweater you bought last year? Why am I blanking?
Drake?
Yeah, it'd be good. I almost
Their
said
coach
Dayton.
is gone.
Well, they'll lose again too.
Yeah, well, Missouri will play against Iowa.
That's the Drake coach, yeah.
That'll be our luck. Mizzou ends up paired against Iowa. I think they're roughly both
6.
like 8-9-ish seeds right now. Oh, God.
That would be phenomenal.
No, that would be miserable. I do
No,
not
it'd be
wanna
phenomenal
play
to
that
watch
guy
your
again.
reaction.
I'm not buying an Iowa sweatshirt. I'll just wear my Drake one again.
Yeah, Iowa right now is on the 8 line. Mizzou's probably bumping themselves up to like a 9-10 line right
We
now.
want Mizzou, Iowa.
Oh, God. That would be brutal. No.
And I think they've still got that guy that led them in scoring last year that's there, too.
They do. Yeah.
I don't know if he's played as well since he's transferred to the Big Ten. I think
He's been
has.
very good. Yeah. He plays 92% of the minutes for them.
Yeah.
I just realized that's what's going to happen.
Nice.
Yeah, SLU. Coming up next.
No.
T.O. Barrett saved Mizzou's season, and are you allowing yourself to dream on this Tigers team now? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. Cardinals currently in spring training action as they lead the Mets 3-0 in the bottom of the fifth inning. Nolan Gorman with a 3-run homer in the game today. And the Blues will be back in action tomorrow night as they return from their Olympic break. 6 o'clock pregame coverage for you as the Blues take on the Kraken here on 101 ESPN with Alex Ferrario. Then puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. This Sports Update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Not every day you come back from break and your co-host is calling you a cheap you-know-what.
Well, I mean, you are.
I think here it happens quite a bit, actually.
I was going to say, actually, I think that happens daily.
It may not be that exact phrase.
Yeah, calling you some type of name at some point.
I need to get to a Mizzou game.
You're running
poser.
out of time.
Got one more.
Got one
more chance.
Maybe you get to one of those tournament games. They'll go deep.
March the 7th, they are playing against Arkansas at home. Other than that, I've missed my chance. Last night would have been a good one to go to, Alex. They end up winning against...
I get you not going, though. I mean, who would have thought they were going to win that one?
Seriously.
That's a waste of money on paper.
Yeah.
They went up against number 22, Tennessee, and it didn't seem like a good matchup for them. Tennessee's a very good offensive rebounding team, and Missouri's very bad at rebounding, generally speaking. Tennessee plays very slow. They're very methodical, and they are efficient offensively. Then you watch the first half, and it's like, all right, well, this is not going as planned to start things off. T.O. Barrett looked terrible. The offense isn't there. They get down to that like 12-2 run, and it seems like it's going to be another one of those games where it just gets away from them. They never are in it, and you can just check out before you even get to the second half. But they keep it close. They play a rock fight in the first half, and in the second half, the offense comes alive, and they ultimately score 47 points. T.O. Barrett is the catalyst for this. Missouri looked dead in the water coming out of the non-conference play. They decided to switch T.O. Barrett and Anthony Robinson because they needed more of a scoring punch from their guards. They didn't have another guy outside of Mark Mitchell that could drive offense for the team. Jaden Stone can score, but he's more of a catch-and-shoot guy. Trent Pierce, same thing. He can score, but he's a catch-and-shoot guy. They needed somebody that could go and get himself a bucket. Anthony Robinson is more of a guy that allows the game to come to him. He's not somebody that dictates the flow of the game. If you watched that last night, anybody that watched, whether you're a Mizzou fan or not, you felt T.O. Barrett's impact. He knew exactly what he was going to do, and so did Tennessee, and they couldn't stop it, Alex. If you're looking for the reason that this Mizzou season, instead of going completely off the rails and us talking this offseason about whether or not Dennis Gates is the right guy and how much pressure there was on he and this upcoming recruiting class to ultimately decide whether or not he's going to be the coach long-term at Mizzou, T.O. Barrett saved us from having that conversation, and now I think the conversation will be this offseason. Dennis Gates is probably going to get a contract extension because of the job that he did and the ability that T.O. Barrett had to keep this thing on the rails. Incredibly impressive, and now Missouri is almost certainly going to be going dancing, and we'll be talking about them as a potential team that can get to the second round of the NCAA tournament this year.
I think a lot of eyes were focused early on this season on Ant Robinson because of how he ended last season, and it felt like that was the guy that was going to take over as the guy that can carry Mizzou, and Mark Mitchell being the other one. And Mitchell has been good this season. Ant Robinson, to me, has just been a little disappointing than what my expectations were, but that was my biggest thing with T.O. Barrett. It's like, man, you not only saved Mizzou's season, you saved Dennis Gates' job. I don't think he was going to get fired this season, but if this was an underwhelming one and you miss the tournament and you go 500 in SEC play or maybe below that, I think going into next year it was going to be, look, Gates either gets this thing going or we're moving on from him because we need to get a coach who can have success in the portal and recruiting, but he needs to start turning these guys into players that can make a difference. And that's what T.O. Barrett has done. So, I mean, I don't know if the extension comes with Dennis Gates, but more than anything, it gives it a little bit more leeway of, okay, let's see, because I know next season he's got a lot more talented players, 5-star recruits that are coming in. You develop a T.O. Barrett, just like we were talking about with Kobe Brown at the front end of Dennis Gates' time here. You take that, and now you add in 5-star players. That's where things start getting more interesting.
I'm glad you brought up Kobe Brown. a question that Gabe DeArmond presented on the podcast the other day that I wanted to get your thoughts on. If I told you you could have one of the following players, who would you rather have? Mark Mitchell or Kobe Brown?
Kobe Brown.
I lean Kobe Brown.
Kobe Brown was so
But
clutch.
Mitchell's, I agree, and he had the shooting too. Like, he became a good three-point shooter. Mitchell's become a better distributor, but he doesn't have the three-point shot, and he's a good scorer. I think I would lean Kobe Brown, though. He could rebound decent, too.
I think I'm going Kobe Brown. He's got the size. He's a little bigger than Mark Mitchell.
Like 6'8",
They're similar in terms of height, but Kobe was like 250, whereas
like
Mark Mitchell's, I think, like 220. So he could play the 5 if you needed him to. That's asking a lot out of Mark Mitchell. Mark Mitchell's more of a 3-4 than a 5 potentially for you, and Kobe was 3 to 5, depending on what the matchup looked like for you on any given night. And that shot to me is such a difference maker. I mean, he wasn't just a good shooter; he was one of the better shooters in the SEC that season. So you add that, it opens up things for the offense. I will say for this team, if you're telling me, hey, you can either have Kobe Brown or Mark Mitchell on the 2026 Missouri basketball team, I think I'd probably take Mark Mitchell because he has more of an ability to create his own shot. He gets to the rim. That's the way that he succeeds. And I don't know that Kobe would be able to take advantage of his full arsenal on this roster, given what they have. That year, I think he made more sense for them, given what they had elsewhere. They had Demoy Hodge, who could be one of those guards that is able to create for himself, or shoot, especially from the outside. I think for this team, Mark Mitchell's probably the better fit, but it speaks to their development that those two guys were able to become the players that they were by the time they left Missouri, with what Mark Mitchell is and what Kobe Brown became in his final year under Dennis Gates. And we're starting to see something similar with the development path for T.O. Barrett as well. Those are some really encouraging signs if you're a Mizzou fan watching Dennis Gates and what he can do with some of this talent that arrives on campus.
Yeah. And Barrett's the one that unlocked the offense, to your point, this season. Because remember, early on in the season, I'd be on the show going, I look at this Mizzou team and I go, outside of Mark Mitchell, they do nothing well. And I'm still not sure that they do anything extremely great. They're above average, if not average, at everything. But T.O. Barrett's the one that's really starting to make the offense look a little bit crisper and cleaner here over the last, 10 games. Because I remember early on in the season, early in SEC play, I'd be like, this is ugly. Like, just turn it off. I don't want to watch it. All it is Mark Mitchell puts his head down and tries to make something happen. Now he's at least got somebody else there with him, so he's got at least a Batman and a Robin on the team.
They're interesting to me as a tournament team just because I think they're playing their best basketball right now. Mark Mitchell is a guy that has become more aggressive. T.O. Barrett, obviously, as you saw last night. Somebody compared him to Jameis Winston, where when it looks good, man, does it look good? And when it looks bad, you're wondering, what the hell is this guy doing? And he's pulled from the game 3 minutes in, as he was last night. But when he's on a heater, it's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. You've got those two guys that attack the rim. Jaden Stone, when he's right, and he hasn't been for the last few games, he's a heck of a scorer as well. And then, man, what they're getting right now out of Trent Pierce as a spot-up shooter has been really impressive. He's been making a ton of threes over the last month or so. You have those guys as pieces of this roster. It's a good starting point. And then if you're able to get anything out of Anthony Robinson, and if Sean Phillips just stays out of foul trouble, that's 5 or 6 guys that you can trust once you get into the NCAA tournament.
All I just heard was a ton of ifs.
Yeah.
Can I have a little bit more certainty?
Oh, Mark Mitchell's really good. And
That's about all you get.
no, I think Trent Pierce is a certainty at this point. You feel really good about where he's at as a player. And T.O. Barrett, more often than not, has been pretty certain. He's a guy that you can count on to score 15-plus points a game.
Man,
That's about it.
As long as they get the perfect matchup in the tournament, they'll win a game.
Yeah, I wouldn't even bet on that.
That's a success at this point.
I'm
serious. That's a really successful year given where
I'm
where
with
they
you.
came
Making
from.
the tournament is a successful year for them, but
I'm not
at
betting on
some
them
point
winning
you got
in the
to
first round.
do something a little bit more.
I agree. Next year's that
I
year.
said the same thing with Drinkwitz early on. It's like at some point I need to see.
We're still waiting for that big game.
We'll talk, I'm not
we're
getting
waiting on
into
that big game. I haven't seen that big game yet.
Did I just strike a nerve there? Oh yeah, welcome back.
You do need to see.
has lost like Princeton.
Yeah. You do need to see more out of Dennis Gates once he gets to the tournament. I don't think this is the team where you're judging him
when you have all that talent.
on that. But next year, you're going to have a couple of McDonald's All-Americans. You add them, hopefully, to the mix with T.O. Barrett, potentially with a guy that's starting to show you a little something with Trent Burns as well, a 7-footer. You add a couple of All-Americans to that. Now you've got a fun team. Now you're really having the ability to go out there.
This segment was supposed to be selling me on them like going on around in this year's tournament.
Oh yeah, no, that's not happening.
No, I could sell you. I just gave you the hard sell.
Oh, that was it? Oh, sorry. I wasn't. Sorry. I thought, yeah. Okay.
Couldn't that team get to the Sweet 16?
No.
Theoretically?
No.
If ifs and buts were
No.
candy and nuts.
I mean, look at what they've done in conference
But
play.
it's delicious cookies.
Okay, time out. I'll go ahead and do this.
He's going to. Okay, time out.
I want some tone thrown my way.
Hold on.
Throw it at me.
Hold on, you want me to do this? I'll do this. You want to go?
Hold on. All right, let me make sure we don't land on a seed line where we run into a 1 or a 2 seed in the
you
second
want to
round.
go? I'll go right now.
So you think Florida's good, right?
Yeah.
Guess who beat them?
Yeah, okay.
Shut up.
Okay, now here's what I would say to this one as well.
Shut up.
They beat Florida when Florida was down at this point in the season.
They literally won their next 5 games after losing to Missouri.
And that's when they turned it on, was after Mizzou. Like, if they were playing well going into that
They
game.
had previously lost by 1 to Duke and by 4 to UConn.
Okay.
Yeah, they were really struggling. So there's that.
Can't live in the past, man.
Kentucky, do you guys think Kentucky is any good this year?
How are we defining good?
I don't
if
think-
we're defining good as they're in the tournament, sure.
I don't think they could win the tournament.
I'm not sure they
agree.
can get to the Sweet 16.
Okay, they're a 7 seed, 6 seed maybe.
Like you guys.
Missouri beat them.
Okay.
Cool, you beat a 7 seed, man.
Flu could beat a 7 seed.
Okay, do you guys think Texas A&M's any good?
Not after watching that game.
Okay. Do you guys think Vanderbilt's any good? Because right now they're listed as a 4 seed.
Yeah, I
Not
think
after
they're
watching that
overseeded.
game.
But they're a 4 seed.
I think when you go up against the Big Ten or
didn't
other
stutter. I
better
heard what you
conferences, you're getting
said.
your butt kicked.
I felt like maybe you didn't hear me.
Oh!
They're a protected seed, and Missouri beat them a week ago. And then last night, another 4 seed in Tennessee, protected seed, Missouri just beat them.
Okay.
So if they go up against, 4, 5 in the NCAA tournament, I think they can win one of those 2 matchups.
I don't think so. No.
And if Missouri wins out, they'll probably be a 6 seed.
I don't know about that either.
As of today, I think they're probably
wait now.
an
Are
8.
you talking about like winning the conference tournament?
Well, they could win out the next 3 games, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. That gives you another quad 1A win against Arkansas. That one would be at home. It would be pretty similar to what you just got against Tennessee. And then you've got potentially in that scenario, the double bye. You win another game in the NCAA tournament, it would be against a quality opponent. Or in the SEC tournament, rather.
I'm still not, and here's why.
Probably talking about a
I was hoping
6
you were
seed,
going to give me
7
my
seed, maybe.
softball that Ferrario gave me in the office of, well, they do play up to teams, better teams.
That was a softball?
Well, what I want is my main
You
counter.
whiffed on it.
Well, he kind of was doing it, running through the teams, but he didn't say the statement I was looking for. Yeah, they play up to the better teams in the SEC, and as we just talked about, it more likely to happen. The better teams in the SEC are going to be home watching the Sweet 16. Okay. Like, I think when they go up against, depending on the 3, like, maybe you might convince me, but like Kansas is on a 3 line. They run into Kansas. I'm taking Kansas.
They can beat Nebraska.
See, I don't think they can. I think Nebraska's much better. Oh. I think Nebraska can beat them. I've seen Nebraska.
I've seen Nebraska, too. I watched the games.
Yeah?
That was tone, right?
That was tone. That was tone.
No.
That was.
No, he started off by saying,
that wasn't
I
tone.
watched the
No, but
game.
that wasn't tone directed at somebody. That was a pompous tone of like, I've seen Nebraska. Hey, I can raise my hand and say I haven't seen Nebraska.
You really pulled you don't watch Big Ten basketball like I watch.
Yeah, I wonder who we learned that one from. Brandon.
I'm proud of you, T-Bone. Coming up next, the Rewind
I've
here on 101
seen them.
ESPN. I walked through the door yesterday at Victory Men's Health. It was wonderful to be back, see all the people that I've come to know over there, and they're helping me unlock my inner champion. They can do the exact same thing for you. About a year and a half ago, I went in there and I got my micronutrient level checked. Find out where I'm at on all of these different levels, where am I deficient, and man, it wasn't great, to be totally frank with you. And about a year and a half later, I've changed some of the things in my diet. They've helped me understand, all right, this is what works for you. Some people, this is what they need. For you, this is what you need. And I went back in, found out where my levels were at, and I'm doing a hell of a lot better. And they were able to put together a personalized plan now for me to continue unlocking my inner champion. They can do the same thing for you. Maybe for you, it's weight loss goals or low testosterone or erectile dysfunction. You can read all about what they have to offer over at victorymenshealth.com. I went in yesterday, and when I got into the room, they've got this menu set up for you. You can look at all of the things that they have to offer. It's 2 pages. It's huge. They have a ton for you over at Victory Men's Health. So check them out today. Book that first appointment online at Victory Men's Health and online at victorymenshealth.com. Mahomes long body on the text line. Good to have you 3 back together again. Totally agree. It's been a fun show today, and if you missed any of it, check it out on the podcast page. 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
The 101 ESPN app. Super free. Super free. It is.
Super free. It's super duper free. Super free.
It's super cool.
and super easy to use.
And it's sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Sheepy reporter on our Air Comfort Service text line said, yeah, after hearing that last segment, I totally think BK corrected your grammar earlier today. Yeah, he did.
I know.
He presents the evidence himself, not us.
Hold on. That's unfair.
No,
T-Bone was the one that had
but you started
in the last segment.
Yeah, but you started with like, hold on, okay, you want to do this?
Well, T-Bone challenged me.
And boy, did he challenge you.
I'm like getting called out. If you're going to call me out, I'll call your ass out. And then he said, you don't watch the Big Ten. I said, all right. No.
I've seen Nebraska.
Nebraska with their impressive wins over
Illinois,
Michigan State. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, what's your impressive win? You got to brag about Florida still?
The most recent games that they've played against high-level competition, Michigan, Illinois, Purdue, Iowa, lost every damn one of them. Every single one of them.
So you're saying that the one game that Nebraska won against Illinois earlier this season doesn't count? Just like the one win that Mizzou over Florida earlier this season.
Hold
on. I just showed them up, man.
That was actually really well done by you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really well done by you.
You want to challenge me?
I don't trust Nebraska with a 10-foot pole.
I don't trust Mizzou with a 10-foot pole.
They're very good defensively. They can't score.
Were you defining Mizzou or Nebraska there?
Mizzou's not very good defensively. So. just so we're clear here.
It is good to be back, boys. I've missed this.
It's a lot of fun.
It's different arguing with a 5 and a 4-year-old.
Cardinals playing right now.
Yeah.
Nolan Gorman hit a home run earlier today.
He's back, ladies and gentlemen, 40-plus.
I'll go ahead and ask you this question that I asked off air. If I told you today that Nolan Gorman finishes the season with 35 home runs, I don't expect that. I don't think it's going to happen. Just
in your world,
walk down this path with me, all right? Nolan Gorman finishes the year. He has 35 home runs. Jordan Walker finishes the season with 25 home runs. I tell you nothing else about the way that this season goes for anybody else on the roster. I don't even tell you what average or anything else that Walker or Gorman have. How's the season go?
500 record. 80 to 85 wins, somewhere around that.
I think that's about right. And it's like a top 15 offense. I know that it's like top 10 because you're still missing, in my opinion, in that mix. I know you said a big number there for Gorman's homers, but a real 3-4 major threat in the middle of that lineup. The season would then be determined on its ceiling based on what the pitching does.
Agreed.
Right? Like Fitz, who's thrown like gas today. Like, if this guy's awesome, and I saw someone tweet out that they're still high on him being a mid-rotation arm. If he becomes a mid-rotation arm, and you get like a Doyle maybe late in the season that comes up, or Motts and Matthews kind of figure it out, and maybe Liberatore figures it out, like the pitching would define what the ceiling is. But even with that, I think their ceiling's super low. I would settle in at, like, at best case, 85 wins. Odds are they settle around 80, 82.
Maybe I missed it. I don't think I realized Richard Fitz had the ability to throw 98.
I think his velo was down last year, if I remember correctly.
Is set 95-ish last season? Dude, if he can consistently throw 97, that's a real weapon as a part of your rotation. I mean, who was the last Cardinal starter that had that? Like, actual starter, because technically Jordan Hicks did, but let's be real.
I was going to say Jordan Hicks. Was Seymour that high?
I think early on.
I was saying early on, I thought he was.
But I think he was early.
Lynn was never that high, right?
No, he's like 90, mid-90s.
Lackey wasn't either.
I guess Alex Reyes, when he was healthy, was that, but that was like a,
Yeah, I think Seymour probably.
Was Jack at like 95?
I don't think he got to like 90. I don't think he ever sat 97.
I think Seymour was probably the last one.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
Dakota, obviously, but
no, come on. That'd be a real weapon for them, the likes of which they haven't had much. So that's fun. If you're able to get a little something.
Find the Cardinals season.
It's fun to have a 97-mile-an-hour fastball.
If you're able to get a little something more.
6 of those guys out there.
Yeah, I know.
And have 2 in the minors.
Dustin May, Libby holds his velo later into the game. I don't know. Maybe you could get to 85-ish wins with those guys really coming through for you, and then by the end of the year, you're talking about being potentially last year's version of the Reds. We sneak into the playoffs, and that'd be a really nice way for this season to go for them. All right, on the SLU side of things, they lose last night. It's not going the way that they wanted it to down the stretch here. Alex, you worried about SLU, or is this just hitting some roadblocks before the end of the season?
I'm a little worried just because of the physicality factor into all of this, and worried that it exposes a little bit. Plus, I think if you're SLU, what you needed to have a significantly high seed so that you didn't have to worry about matchups that go against you. And I think that's what you're going to fall into now with losing these last 3 games. And it's starting to make me question a little bit of those starting guys that you're focused on, saying, like, these are the guys that have to carry us. So, yeah, I mean, I think adversity is a good thing. This type of adversity, though, going into the tournament, that's not what you want.
Yeah, I fear that their path to the Sweet 16 is going to get too tough for them, because if they land up on that 7, 8, 9 line, you're talking about going up against a 2 or a 1. And this is a very deep top of the tournament where you can argue there's about 10 teams that can potentially win the title. All the 1s, all the 2s, and a couple of the 3s. They're probably falling into that line now with that loss last night. And now that they're being outplayed from the physical standpoint over the last couple in the A-10, I can't imagine what it's going to look like when they run into some of these teams in the tournament.
Yeah, to me, this season was always going to be judged from Mizzou on what's the floor look like? Are you able to reach the NCAA tournament in what should be a quote-unquote down year, right? And they've matched those expectations. They've met that. For SLU, it was about the ceiling. Once we saw what this team was capable of, I was like, all right, can you really take advantage of Robbie being there and Josh Schertz still being a part of this thing and going 6 for 6 in the transfer portal the way that they believe they did? And if they're only able to get out of that basically the exact same kind of year as what Mizzou had, not in the regular season, but in terms of the postseason results, they're on that 8 or 9 line, probably playing against a 1 seed in the second round of the tournament, and they get bounced at that point, or if they even get there. That's pretty disappointing relative to what they had previously expected. So a bummer of a finish to the season for them. I am a little bit worried right now on what they're going to be able to do in the tournament. Less about them, more about what this finish means for them in terms of their seeding. For Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. Plenty of Blues conversation throughout the day today that if you missed, you can check it out on the podcast page. You can also see the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast over on the YouTube page later on this afternoon as well. We will talk to you tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane is coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Stop railing me.
Okay. In 15 minutes.
This season isn't about finishing.
What?
Isn't that what's next on the rundown?